Good afternoon. I would like to call the April 12th, 2018 meeting of the Plaquemines Parish Council to order at 1:02 p.m. Machine is open for roll call. Let the record reflect that all 9 council members are present. Please rise for the prayer to be led by Mr. Juneau, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay. We take this moment to acknowledge Almighty God and thank Him for our bountiful blessings, especially for the parish's natural resources. We give thanks to God for our brave and courageous men and women and our military who daily risk their lives to protect our precious freedom. And we pray for our world leaders to know how to obtain world peace. We pray that the government body comprised of both council and administration will always serve our parish with honesty, humility, and equality to all. And as this government body gathers here today, we pray for the wisdom to know right from wrong and the courage to do that which is right. Amen.
Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. At this time, if there's no objections, I would like to move to 1B, proclamations.
A proclamation declaring April 12, 2018 is George Burnett's and Matt Martinez Day in the parish of Plaquemines.
Councilmember Roussel.
Yes. Turn me on.
Oh, I'm sorry. Offered by Councilmember Roussel, seconded by Councilmember Byrd. Unanimous second.
Yes. This proclamation will be read by the secretary, and the individuals are here. We're going to read the proclamation, then we're going to ask you to come up.
A proclamation declaring April 12, 2018 is George Burnett's III and Matt Martinez Day in the parish of Plaquemines. Whereas Matt Martinez and George Burnett's III were playing in a pool tournament on February 24, 2018, when someone who knew Matt was a firefighter yelled for Matt to come quickly because the man had fallen and was not moving. And whereas, after checking for a pulse, both Matt and George began to administer CPR to the gentleman until EMS personnel arrived. And whereas the gentleman had suffered from a heart attack and was told by the emergency room doctor that he was very lucky to be alive. And whereas the gentleman's wife and family were very thankful to George and Matt for their assistance, Matt and George said they were very proud and happy to have helped. And whereas the Plaquemines Parish Fire Department, the Plaquemines Parish Government, and the Plaquemines Parish Council are very proud of their 2 heroes, George Burnett of the Belle Chase Fire Station and Matt Martinez of the Buras Fire Station for saving the day. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Plaquemines Parish Council, represented by its duly authorized chairman, Nicole Williams, and by concurrence of the parish president, Amos Cormier, representing the Plaquemines Parish Government, that it hereby declares April 12, 2018 as George Burnett III and Matt Martinez Day in the parish of Plaquemines.
Member Roussel.
Yes. As you heard, the proclamation is to honor you guys for the service that you provide. I know you provide that service on a regular basis, but to put your pool stick down and jump into the scene, goes beyond your normal duty. And I want to recognize you today for those efforts, and we really appreciate your first responder service and your citizenship in the parish as well. So I offered it in its second. Unanimously.
Yeah. Machine is open for a vote.
Some comments too.
Let the record reflect the proclamation is accepted 9-0. Councilmember Byrd.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. George and Matt, it's an honor to have you two guys working in our fire department. Matt, I've had the pleasure of serving next to you on the volunteer fire department, and you guys' actions are nonetheless what I would have expected for you guys to do anyway. So thank you for your efforts, your service to the parish, and thank you guys for being there at the right time. So thank you.
Any other comments from the table? Audience? I would also like to thank you for your continued service to the parish and the people of Plaquemines Parish. At this time, we'll ask them to come up and take a photo and present the proclamation. Oh, you want to say something, Mr. President, for me? I'm sorry.
Thank you for your service to our parish.
Now, read it just like that. Yes. I know. Okay, at this time, we'll read the second proclamation.
A proclamation proclaiming the month of April 2018 as Fair Housing Month in the parish of Plaquemines.
I'll offer this proclamation and ask for a unanimous second. I'll have Ms. Barber read it, and then we'll take a vote on this proclamation.
A proclamation proclaiming the month of April 2018 as Fair Housing Month in the parish of Plaquemines. Whereas the 50th anniversary of the National Fair Housing Law, Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1968, during the month of April is an occasion for all Americans, individually and collectively, to rededicate themselves to the principle of freedom from housing discrimination whenever it exists. And whereas this law guarantees for each citizen the critical personal element of freely choosing a home, and whereas a fair housing law has been passed by the state of Louisiana, and the implementation of the law requires the positive commitment, involvement, and support of each of our citizens. And whereas the department and agencies of the state of Louisiana are to provide leadership in the effort to make fair housing not just an idea, but an ideal for all of our citizens. And whereas barriers that diminish the rights and limit the options of any citizen to freely choose a home will ultimately diminish the rights and limit the options of all. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Plaquemines Parish Council, represented by its duly authorized chairman, Nicole Williams, and by concurrence of the parish president, Amos Cormier, representing the Plaquemines Parish government, that it hereby declares the month of April 2018 as Fair Housing Month in the parish of Plaquemines.
Okay, I'll open the machine up for a vote on this proclamation at this time. Proclamation is adopted 9-0. This is just a proclamation showing our support of the Fair Housing Act and all that it entails. No one is here to accept this. We're going to mail this proclamation. So is there any questions or comments from the table? Audience? Reverend Edwards?
Yes, I stand because I've been involved in the housing advocate for 40 years. I used to work for Fair Housing. I'm honored that the parish is doing this. but as your proclamation says, it's not about idealism or hope that it's just not a ceremonial act, because since 1981 there have been several resolutions came to this parish to bring about housing in Plaquemine Parish, and people always looked at it as bringing projects and bringing people from New Orleans. And I know there's be some move, that there's something in the make right now to do some housing on the east bank of the river, and I just hope that the spirit in which you're voting for this resolution be the same spirit when it comes for talk about multiple housing on the east bank of the river, and don't see that as Section 8 bringing in outside people, because in the same spirit you do this, I hope you do that, because there is a need for some housing in Plaquemine Parish, whether it's public housing, multiple housing, because there's still a lot of people who still haven't recovered from Hurricane Katrina, where multiple families staying in the same house. Just recently, there was a multiple housing issue in the east bank of the river, and I was on the zoning board. I voted against it because this is the wrong neighborhood. But there's going to be some move coming to bring about multiple housing in Plaquemine Parish in the spirit of the Fair Housing Act that you're voting on for this proclamation. So I hope that same spirit be given when this comes before the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Edwards. Any other questions or comments? Mr. Russo?
I'll save them until when the issue comes up. I said I was going to make a few comments, but I'll save them till when the issue comes up.
Okay. Okay, at this time, I'd like to offer a motion to add an item to the agenda under executive session. It'll be Plaquemines Parish Civil Service Commission et al. Versus Plaquemines Parish Council et al. Docket number 63-231, Division A, 25th JDC, Attorney Danny Garrett. Is there any questions or comments from the public or the table to on adding this item?
I'll second the resolution.
Any objections? You'll second it?
I'll second the resolution to suspend the rules and add it to the agenda today.
Under executive session. At this time, with that being said, the machine is open to add the item. It's a unanimous vote, 9-0. Item will be added to the agenda under executive session. With that being said, at this time, we'll move to executive session. Ms. Barbara, can you read the executive sessions, please?
Sure. 1A, Paula Dove versus Plaquemines Parish Government et al., 25th JDC, docket number 64-358, Attorney Danny Garrett, Councilmember Williams. Number 2, Plaquemines Parish Council versus Plaquemines Parish President, docket number 64-047, 25th JDC, Division A, Attorney Danny Garrett, Councilmember Williams. Number 3, Midway Cattle Ranch LLC et al. Versus Plaquemines Parish Government, USDC-EDLA 2:17-CV-07468. Attorneys from Berglass Tankersley, Councilmember Bartholomew. Number 4, Plaquemines Parish Civil Service Commission et al. Versus Plaquemines Parish Council et al. Docket number 63-231, Division A, 25th JDC, Attorney Danny Garrett.
At this time, I'd like to offer a motion to move into executive session. Seconded by Mr. Juneau. Machine is open. Let the record reflect vote to move into executive session is 9-0. We'll move into executive session at 1:15 p.m. Like to call the meeting back to order, coming out of executive session at 2:19 p.m. No legal or binding action. Let's move to the 1C.
Status report by the parish president.
Please silence all cell phones.
Good afternoon. This is for the record, Plaquemines Parish President Amos Cormier's status report from March 26th, 2018 to April 12th, 2018. On March 28th, had a meeting with HGA. They are our consultants for the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. We discussed various issues, status with GOSEP, and other matters. On Tuesday, April 3rd, had a meeting with Councilmember Burt, Councilmember Juneau. I think Councilman Russo was there, and it was regarding our current status of garbage disposal in the parish. And we are continuing to work on that. There have been some changes that have occurred, and we will continue to work on that issue, process, always looking to improve it. On Wednesday, April 4th, we had the parish president's meeting in Baton Rouge at the state capitol. Myself and other parish presidents were updated on current bills pending in the before the state legislature. One bill that the Police Jurors Association noted could greatly drive up legal costs was a bill that introduced regarding to change the law regarding public records request. And the Police Jurors Association, as well as the parish presidents of Louisiana, are monitoring that bill and seeking to curb the unfunded mandate aspect of it, because whenever public records requests are filed, it drives up, creates legal cost, and we have enough bills as it is. On April 6th, I had a meeting with Councilwoman Trufant and the representatives from Phillips 66, as well as Parish Attorney Shane Landry. And I can't remember if anyone else was present in the meeting, but we discussed levies, both on the Mississippi River side, the federal levies, as well as the non-federal levies on the backside. There are many moving parts to this, the interplay, we'll call it, between levies and coastal restoration. From the beginning, this administration seeks to demand a uniform approach for Plaquemines Coast, and not disparate treatment. Plaquemines Parish government has filed a permit with the Corps has it to rehabilitate Mardi Gras Pass. It's interesting, and it's interesting to note that some of the objections to our permit, we're hopeful for approval to begin work on this uncontrolled crevasse would be a good term. Some people are using different terminology, and terminology has power. There are some people calling it a diversion, and I think it's one of the issues I think that I'm highlighting as uniform approach is that you've got things such as CPRA's mid-barataria, which is over 400 feet wide. Now, that to me does not constitute a diversion. That's, I think, about the width of the Mr. Go. It's also troubling that you have Lake Pontchartrain Basin Foundation filed an objection to our permit on Mardi Gras Pass, which is dumping, I think we went from 2 years ago, 800 CFS of water, river water, to last year it was 14,000 CFS. There are some reports that the deepening is nearing, these are not official reports, deepening is nearing 100 feet. And but the fact that troubles me, and the reason why I think we need to demand a uniform approach, is that while the Lake Pontchartrain Basin Foundation has no problem with this tremendous quantity of these river waters being dumped into our fishing grounds and fishing areas, they objected in writing, and have been objecting in writing, to the opening of the Bonnie Carey Spillway. And I'll reference an article by Mark Schleifstein that came out March 8th, in which they cite that the effects of putting in a much smaller amount of Mississippi River water into Lake Pontchartrain, they oppose that because the effects could include algae blooms, algae blooms, and in the past, such algae blooms have included blue-green algae, which is toxic to humans and pets. They also note that large algal blooms cause low oxygen dead zones, and this is very disconcerting to me because it's pretty clear that save their lake, but pollute Plaquemines basins. If we know, as they cite, that this will cause a dead zone, and they don't want that water in Lake Pontchartrain because they don't want a dead zone, then I think it's a little bit hypocritical on their part to oppose Plaquemines Parish trying to prevent dead zones in our fishing areas. So we'll continue to keep you monitoring on that, and we're hopeful that we will receive this approval of our permit to begin mitigating this facility, because originally this facility was a permitted facility, and it has failed, and yet and the state was part of the regulatory had some regulatory authority and control over this facility. So here is an older facility that was put in, it failed, and now nobody wants to fix it except for our permit. And so by analogy, it causes me concern when they're wanting to do more of these projects. So what if one of these other ones fails? Then are we going to be left holding the bag again? On Saturday, April 7th, April 8th, had a very successful Grand Bayou fishing rodeo. Congratulations to on the success of that event. On Monday, April 9th, had several meetings, one of which is where there's an organization that's organizing a cancer walk in Plaquemines Parish, and we'll keep you posted as that develops and transpires. We've been reviewing the adult drug court paperwork. As some of you know, this is one of the many things that Plaquemines Parish government does, is we're the ones who are the financial agents for the court systems, the DA, the clerk's office, we take on the financial liability to allow them to provide services to our constituents. And so we're just making sure, performing our due diligence on those matters. On Wednesday, April 11th, we had our pre-council meeting. I want to thank Councilman Juneau, Councilman Bartholomew, Councilwoman Trufant-Salvant, and also Councilman Burt and Councilman Roussel. When Councilman Burt showed up, Councilman Roussel left, so we didn't violate any open meetings laws. Also, I attended the Professional Landman's Association of New Orleans executive event, and let many of the landmen who they're the gentlemen who go out, order, execute, and line up the leases for mineral leases. We're seeing currently all prices have notched up even again. That's good for Plaquemines Parish. And I let them know that we are open for business in Plaquemines Parish, and we want to facilitate and aid in any way that we can, especially on our levy district lands. There are some positive developments there. And also, Phase 2A plans have been approved by the Louisiana Office of Community Development, and that's for the West Bank Sewer Project from the Belchase Wastewater Treatment Plant South. I signed some more contracts, purchasing rights-of-ways. Our land department, the title research is time-consuming, and it sucks up some of our time in legal, but we're making progress, and we're glad to keep that project moving forward. On the Grand Bayou Dock, that project was advertised for construction. The bid opening is scheduled for April 17th. So that project had to be, it was redesigned, and that's why it was rebid out, and it received Office of Community Development approval. On Friday, April 20th, everyone is invited. We're going to have a groundbreaking ceremony for the Lake Hermitage Road elevation project that will be occurring. It'll be Friday, April 20th at 1 p.m. On Good News Drainage, on April 9th, we held a pre-construction meeting. The cost were approved by FEMA, and GOSEP and the parish have done the paperwork, and so that project is moving forward as well. On Jesuit Bend Drainage, FEMA has approved the additional funds. We received a fully executed sub-grantee agreement from GOSEP. So we have several projects that are moving forward. Last but not least, one of the Port Suffolk Library project that's ongoing. We have, as most of you know, we have a high river. Anything, I believe, over 13 feet, the Corps holds up progress. It prohibits any drilling in the ground. So that one's on hold until the water goes down. And with that, Chairwoman Williams, I turn to my time. Thank you.
You want to speak? Mr. Roussel?
Yes, I want to thank Director Beshel and his efforts to put a schedule together to be able to maintain Walker Road, which many of you know has been a sore spot with a lot of my constituents. And in this chamber, we've had many issues, but you have done a good job on that. I want to thank you on that. The question I have about the Mardi Gras Pass is that I understand what you said. We filed a permit to rehabilitate the structure. I'd like to know who is working on that and what is the source of the funding.
Yes, Councilman Roussel. There was, it's Mr. Frank Newell, and pardon me, I can't remember the name of his engineering firm, but Mr. Newell was the one who's doing that work. This council appropriated an ordinance money for that project, and the Louisiana Oyster Task Force committee has also appropriated $200,000 for that project. They're very interested in seeing that this, for lack of a better term, failed structure is rehabilitated. I can't remember off the top of my head the exact estimates, but that was the largest public seed ground for oysters in the state of Louisiana, and now it has been, because of issues like the hypoxia, the dead zone, it's now completely offline.
And so the extent of our commitment is the original appropriation that we had, and the Oyster Task Force picked up the rest?
That's my appreciation, yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Edgecombe?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Amos, I want to thank Mr. Don Beshel, Ken Dugas, and Heavy Equipment for actually handling up on a matter in Myrtle Grove, Stage Phase 2 back at Audubon Road, where everybody's been going by the pump station. They fixed the levee. Looks awesome. The only thing is we need to get the post put on that highway, that road, where nobody can get back on that levee. I mean, it's an awesome job. I'm glad they expedited it, because when we had that high water event a couple weeks ago, it would have definitely came over the sandbags.
And thank you, Councilman Edgecombe. I forgot. I just missed on my notes. We're also on Empire Park. We're constructing the restrooms. That's begun. And they're also doing work on the asphalt in the parking area. I'm sorry. I forgot. I haven't read over it.
That's all, Madam Chair.
Any other questions or comments from the table, from the audience?
How you doing? Logan Lott, 108 K Street, Bellchase, also 1454 Woodland Highway, Bellchase, Louisiana. I come today in quite confusion, to be quite honest with you. I see all this news with a twist, all this coming to Plaquemines Parish and highlighting Plaquemines Parish, inviting all these awesome businesses in Plaquemines Parish to come to this event and set up a booth and this and this and that. Well, one, I mean, where does it, you know, the invite list, or, you know, where does this regulate it? I mean, we're talking about parish as a whole. We're talking about business as a whole. I've been actually approached 3 different times for a $1,500 or a $3,000 30-second or a 15-second ad. I'm being told that these News with a Twist were giving a list of businesses to come to. Now I'm very confused as to how, one, the $10,000, how does that not cover what the News with a Twist is coming? What does it cover? What does it entitle? Also, obviously, most of you are aware of the issues we're having in court. My case is dropped, but my father's is not. I find it a major conflict of interest that we have to contact the, in my opinion, it seems like the current parish president's, yes, I would say promoter in a sense, because I don't really know any much information about the government much, because, you know, it's not many things are posted on the page, on the government page. I'm curious to know how does, you know, because I know businesses in Plaquemines that have been invited, have not been invited. I know places that have been invited, and I also know people that are being charged $1,500 or $3,000 if they want to attend. I'm confused. I don't know what this is about. How do we promote Plaquemines, but only we exclude certain businesses? Or also, like, what is the $10,000? I guess, one, where did it come from? But two, what does it get us? I mean, like, what, and why am I being approached 3 different times, being told that, you know, they've got a list that, you know, this is what they're told the businesses to reach out to. And I just don't get it. Like, why am I being told to reach out to? And then I feel like it's a setup in a sense. You know, I gotta reach out to the administration in a sense to.
So you're referring to the Employee Appreciation Day that the administration has.
Well,
I'm assuming that that's what you're referring to.
Partially, yes, ma'am. And actually, while I was sitting down, I was told that it's not just employee appreciation. However, that's what it says online. It's for everybody. The general public. So
So there are businesses that are being approached, and this is questions that the administration would have to answer.
Absolutely.
I am unaware.
Oh no, I that's why I'm bringing it to you guys
being,
for administration answer.
So this would be for Mr. Okay, so
yeah.
Can you address those questions and concerns, Mr. Coleman?
Yes, I'd be more than glad to address that, Chairwoman Williams, if you just, because this council has rules about what goes on the agenda, and I'm just looking to see where that.
It is my understanding or appreciation that the general public can come up, and this is my understanding as it's how it's always been done, can come up under the status of the president and ask general questions.
That would contradict the.
Well, then that's fine. You don't have to answer. I'll
go ahead and answer it since you allowed it the 5-minute discourse. Yes,
We're
Mr.
gonna
Lott,
stick to that.
anyone,
Thank you for that.
anyone may, I believe when you say you approach for advertising, I believe that was WGNO, the news station?
Yeah, for $1,500 to $3,000.
Yeah, and
$3,000 paid for.
yes, and we have Plaquemines Parish government, that's certainly any news station, any business has a right to advertise anytime, anywhere. I think generally, given that there should be an opportunity to grow your business, I mean, that's a business decision for you personally that I certainly have no comment on.
He's being, my understanding, he's being approached
If I'm,
to the administration.
so you knew about this before, Chairwoman Williams?
I knew about the email that you sent out in regards to this event. I have no idea about this. I didn't even know Mr. Lott was going to be at this meeting.
Well, okay,
Had
this
I known,
seems
I
a bit
would've put him on the
staged, but
agenda.
okay.
Had he called me. But I share these same concerns, and I'm sure a lot of people do. But since it's not on the agenda, maybe we need to put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
If that's what it's required, I mean, like I was like you stated, Ms. Chairman, that you know, this is the time to address these situations. And while in 2 or 3 days is the deadline to get the information in to have a booth out here, like I stated to Ms. Tammy, I was never personally informed about a booth. The only thing I was informed about was a $1,500 to a $3,000 advertisement. I'm broke. I'm hurting right now. This has been over almost a year and a half with this litigation stuff, so it's been tough. So of course I'm not really interested in spending $1,500 to $3,000 for a 15 to a 30-second ad when they have booths that you know. Where was my invite for a free booth? They're telling me that they invited Balestras, and while I'm not frowning at all upon Balestras, they're their own entity. I'm the only bakery in Bellchase as far as an actual bakery. Okay, I've been in business for 5 years. I have never had the parish president ever step foot in my business, ever introduce himself per se, or how can I help you? How could we get this business to succeed? We welcome you into the parish. You get what I'm saying? Stuff like that. I don't feel wanted. Again, where was my invite? You know what I'm saying? How is certain businesses being excluded and included? Where is this list? And again, what does the $10,000 include?
Mr. Lott,
Yes, ma'am,
at the advice of the council attorney, I'm going to ask if you would like to discuss this item, that we put it on the agenda for the next meeting.
ma'am.
Get with your council representative and let them put it on the agenda so it can be discussed in detail. Yes, sir.
Offer motion to suspend the rules, put it on the agenda. Now?
You want to put it on there now?
Yeah, why not? Everybody's here.
Okay. A motion to add this item to the agenda to discuss this event and the approachment
Yeah,
of certain businesses?
Yeah, I guess you could label it as discussion of Plaquemines Parish Employee Appreciation Day and the News with a Twist function on the same day. And this is, I think this is, I'm not doing it to, if we're going to promote it, let's promote it now. Let's discuss it. Maybe Tammy can come up and discuss, you know, how much it costs to get a booth and do certain things. So
Okay,
let's
is there
open
any
it. That way
objection?
everybody gets enough time to, if they want a booth, go out and get a booth.
Is there any objections to adding this item to the agenda for discussion? We're going to vote it. We're going to vote. Yes. We're going to vote to suspend the rules to add this to the agenda. And then we'll take a vote to add it to the agenda. Yes, Mr. Bartholomew?
You're not on. I'm not.
Yes, you are.
Nope.
You're on. I have you on.
Well, I just need to find out whether or not we have the information that's being requested to present for the questions that's being asked. Because it doesn't make sense
To put it on there if we can.
if we can't answer the questions.
And it's, thank you, Councilman Bartholomew. We'll be more than glad to, you know, put it on the agenda, and we'll be on notice now and bring all the information that answer any questions. Feel free to email us. Mr. Lott, give me a call, and I'll answer all those questions at the next council meeting.
Well,
No. Excuse me.
wait,
Okay, I'm
hold
sorry.
on, Mr. Lott, please.
Williams?
Yes,
My
sir.
response to that is, they have the information. Ms. Bradley is the de facto PIO. She's the one that sent the emails out, requested the information from businesses. So all I'm asking is for the administration to give a presentation on what needs to be done to get a booth in the event and to discuss
Okay.
the event. What is it about, and why should businesses? I want Ms. Bradley
Is there any
to come up and
objection
basically
from this council
promote this
to
event.
add this item to the agenda? No objection. Let the machine be open to suspend the rules to add this item to the agenda.
Any items or comment? All right.
Questions or comments from the audience?
You don't have,
Opposition.
You don't have the majority.
No, you don't.
It has to be unanimous.
Unanimous, that's here.
You don't have the majority in the city.
Vote the machines, please.
All right, no, go ahead. I want to see where the majority gonna come into play. Then it kills itself.
There's 2 votes pending.
Ms. Audrey's away from
Yeah.
her chair. The majority of present.
Yeah, no, the majority is seating at the council.
Unanimous.
Unanimous to add it to the agenda.
Yeah, but it has to be enough people that showed up at the meeting. He can't be present.
now.
Yeah, it's the people in the room now. Someone has left.
Right.
There's still one person that needs to
I'm
vote
not
that is
voting.
present.
All right, go ahead.
We gotta leave it alone.
I'm just voting, I'm saying.
It's gonna fail.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You gotta wait till everybody get here.
He wants to wait the audience here.
I mean, y'all can see how I'm voting. If y'all want to wait, fine. If not,
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. This woman wants to know
No.
who just paid me to do
Wait,
this.
Okay. You're out of order, sir, please.
Hold on.
Please
Hold
refrain
on.
from any comments at this time,
I'm
Mr.
sorry,
Lott,
Ms.
please, please.
I'm sorry. I'm very sorry.
Ms. Audrey. We're voting on the suspension to add the item to discuss the event to the agenda.
Mr. Cormier prepared to address the issue that's on the floor?
As it's not on the agenda, so no. I mean, I'd be more than glad to address it and prepared, and I welcome any questions, and we'll come in and be prepared for it.
Yes, I can't cut him back on.
Oh, the cops are being called? My goodness.
Let's just add it. To the-
My thing is if we wait too. Okay.
Because we're gonna hide stuff, or we're not gonna hide
Hold
stuff?
on, hold on. We're going to take a,
No, let's have a vote on this issue.
Yes.
It either floats or dies. Let's
Right.
move. It's not
No.
even on the agenda, so let's
Let's
have a
just-
vote.
let's just
Open the
vote.
machine.
I wasn't called, I work here with them.
let's vote to move to the suspension, to suspend the rules. Can everybody please vote?
Wait, I need some clarity. I took an emergency phone call.
We're voting to suspend the agenda to add this item. To suspend
It's
the rules
my
to add
item.
this item to the agenda.
It's my item, Mr. Trufant. What all I want to discuss is the PIO is here. It's been advertised in the public. It's been presented to the council. It's been presented to all the government employees. They're asking for businesses to sponsor booths. I just want Ms. Bradley to discuss how much it costs to sponsor a booth. What does it entail? What does the event entail? Because the event's going to take place within 20 days. And the deadline is the 15th. So if we suspend it, they won't have an opportunity to get in. So we either do it now, or we can eliminate people from being able to participate in the event.
I don't think that's so.
That is so. That's the
He has the right to deal with that president and that lady tomorrow or today, right now, to get the information. I don't have a problem.
Okay, well, look, let's do a point of order. Let's vote on the suspension. Just vote how you feel. If you want to suspend the rules, vote yes. If you don't, then vote no.
Transparency.
One vote pending.
Suspension fails.
And Chairwoman Williams, if I may just address the little barb here, because
It failed.
but there was a barb taken, a reference made to transparency. Okay, all right, okay,
Mr. Cormier,
okay.
it's a mute issue, okay? Let's just move on to the next item. Under the president's status, does anybody else have anything that the president spoke about to comment on?
Yeah, no, Warren Lawrence, 120 Timber Canal Lane. Back here again on the drainage problem in Myrtle Grove.
He didn't.
8 weeks ago, wait, we're just asking for a price on what it's going to be. We've already...
Mr. Warren, he didn't speak on drainage in Myrtle Grove. He spoke about drainage in Jesuit Bend.
He spoke about drainage.
Not in your specific area. So I'm not trying to be the bad guy, and I understand your frustration. Does anyone in the audience have a comment or question on an item that the president spoke on in his address?
In the past, we've been able to address the questions to the
That was my concern,
the president.
But I was just told that it has to be something that he spoke on. That was my understanding as well, Mr. Lawrence.
Well, I guess you've changed the whole atmosphere.
No,
because in the past,
I'm
we
under the
were
advice
allowed
of
to
my
address
counsel.
the president on any subject, whether it was something applying to your neighborhood. And I just don't understand that now you say because he didn't address Myrtle Grove, he intentionally left us out.
The council chair, okay? I'm just following the rules.
So,
of my
all right. Okay.
Okay? So if you would like that item added to the agenda for the next meeting, please contact your council person.
Ms. Nicole, can I ask you a question? You said that it has to be something that the president has addressed on. Well, you allowed this guy to speak with something that he wasn't, that he addressed on, but you allowed that. Why you couldn't allow him?
No, because I was told, that's why I was...
Oh, you was told to do that prior to this, right? That's what you're saying?
No, Ms.
Because you didn't give him an opportunity to, you didn't give him opportunity.
To you. I got up from my seat, if you didn't notice, when he was speaking and went over to the council attorney and was advised that we shouldn't be speaking on the issue.
Double stand. Go ahead. Double stand.
Did he say anything about Mardi Gras Pass?
Yes, he did. You can speak and ask a question on Mardi Gras Pass.
Thank you so much. Mr. President, could you tell me, because I really missed the Mardi Gras Pass thing, what that mean going to happen? Because I know one of the things you said about the oyster fishermen, they're really suffering. Oysters on East Bank is really dead. The marina is practically dead because oyster fishermen don't have anywhere to go. So what you talked about today, what do that mean for oystermen?
We have filed the permit, and we are fighting to get that permit approved. Now, I don't know if you heard the talk. One of the things that I find frustrating is that you have entities such as the Lake Pontchartrain Basin Foundation.
Yeah, I'm familiar. We've been fighting that for years. They don't. I mean, that is holy ground. You can't touch that. We already know that.
But them and also the Restore Mississippi River Delta are opposing this. But yet, when it comes time for the Bonnet Carré Spillway being opened in their lake, then they oppose that.
But only thing I'm trying to find out, what do this mean for oyster fishermen? Because I want to be able to tell Byron and other people I heard something about Mardi Gras Pass. I don't want to just say I heard the word. I want to be able to tell them what your presentation means for oystermen. That's what I want to leave here, to be able to tell them something.
What it means is we're fighting to get that permit so that we can rehabilitate the structure.
Okay.
That's what I mean. We're waiting the Corps and the other federal agencies.
Thank you, Mr. Reed.
Any other questions or comments? At this time, Mr. Garrett, I would like... You know, you have to come to the podium and state your name, ma'am. I'm sorry. Okay, come to the podium and state your name and address.
Okay, Vanessa Ragas, Beerus, Louisiana. You need your physical address?
Yes, ma'am.
32088 Highway 11.
Thank you.
It's been a while since I've been to a council meeting. And all of us in here are adults. I'm just saying that we should respect each other as such. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. At this time, I would like Mr. Garrett to explain the position that I just took regarding the speaking under the status report of the president.
Madam Chairwoman, the open meetings law requires that in order for y'all to discuss or vote on a matter, and it's not just a matter voted on, but even if all you're doing is receiving information, that subject matter needs to be on the agenda with reasonable specificity. The president makes his president's report. When members of the public raise issues that are outside of that president's report and go into areas that are not on the agenda, it potentially exposes the council to a claim that they are violating the open meetings law. So if a member of the public has something that they feel like is of great importance and needs to be addressed by the council at the meeting and it's not on the agenda, the process mandated by the open meetings law is that the council then add the item to the agenda, which can only be done by a unanimous vote of those present. So if one of them would leave and they're not in the room, but an abstention of someone who is present acts as effectively a no vote. And that is a mandate in the open meetings law. So it's not a matter of the council deciding they don't want to talk about something. It's a matter of complying with the open meetings law. Certainly there is nothing that prevents anyone from contacting the parish president outside of a council meeting or in the back of the room and asking them whatever question they want, because the parish president is not a public body that is subject to the open meetings law. He can have a meeting with someone and is not subject to have an agenda and having to comply with that agenda. And that's always the difficulty, is that if members of the public raise issues that are outside of the agenda, it then exposes the council to a claim by someone else who says, well, gosh, had I known y'all were going to talk about that, or had that been on your agenda, I would have come too, which is kind of the point. Now, like I said, you do have the ability to discuss matters that are not on your agenda initially, but only if you add them to the agenda by that unanimous vote provision.
Thank you, Mr. Garrett.
Can I ask him a question?
You want a question?
I need some clarity, yes. What he's saying, because it seemed like you was giving a legal opinion at one point, but then looked like you started giving your own personal opinion. So I don't know what part was legal when you're saying when you go to the back of the room and all that. I don't know if that's in any law book. But what I'm questioning is that even if it happened, can the council just come up, like when Mr. Black was trying to do, in the middle of a discussion, suspend the rule and have a vote on something without it being on a particular order of agenda? What did open meeting law say about that?
Actually, what the motion that he made was to add that subject matter to the agenda. That can be done at any point during a meeting. A public body like the council can add an item to their agenda at any point. But they do have to follow the rule. Someone has to make a motion to add that item to the agenda, and that motion has to include the subject matter of what's going to be added. There has to be the opportunity for the public to comment on whether it ought to be added to the agenda, not to the subject matter, but whether that should be added. Then the vote must be taken. It has to be a roll call vote. It has to be unanimous. If it is unanimous, then that item is added to the agenda. Once that item is added to the agenda, then under the open meetings law, it is permissible for that discussion to move forward. But if it's not added to the agenda, then it wouldn't be appropriate. As far as the reference to speaking to the parish president, that is still part of the legal opinion, because the open meetings law applies to public bodies, which is the council, and a parish-wide elected executive is not subject to the open meetings law in the sense that he's not a public body. So that means that, in other words, no one has to have an agenda on their meeting with the parish president. There does have to be an agenda of a meeting of the council. So it is all legal opinion. None of it was personal.
Yeah, one question I'd like to ask is that this goes for the public. We have to address it first, that during the president's report, we want to be addressed on a certain item, so it's put on the agenda. Is that correct? In other words, I just can't come here and ask the president a question. It has to be his report goes, and I got to address only what he reports on.
You can ask a question to the president. You just can't do it as part of the council meeting. And I understand that there may be some confusion there, but in other words, to have a discussion within the confines of the council meeting on an issue that is not on the agenda exposes the council to a claim of violation of the open meetings law.
But the parish report is on the agenda.
Right.
We're addressing, if that applies to me as a citizen, that's fine. I understand what I got to do. And what I'm asking is every councilman cannot address anything to that president unless it was on the agenda and he spoke about it. Y'all come forward and ask questions of things that's not on his report or not on the agenda. And you're saying we can't do that.
No, and I'm sorry if you misunderstood. The discussion of an item that is not on the agenda should not take place unless it is added to the agenda. Now, with regard to the parish president's report, there's no way to know exactly every word that's in there. So a discussion of a matter brought up during the president's report would be included in the agenda item.
Mr. Lapine?
Mr. Garrett, one question. If one of us council members from this body asks the president a question in the presidential address, and a citizen has a concern about that question that the president answered, are they allowed to speak on that subject matter? Is that right? Okay, that's what I'm confused too, Mr. Lawrence. Okay. If a council member speaks to the president, he answers the question, and then someone comes up and says, he says, I'm not going to answer that. Would they engage with the council and the president? Will they have allowed a chance to speak on that?
The issue is whether the subject matter is properly noticed, either being on the agenda or being added to the agenda. And the difficulty, and quite frankly, it's a difficulty that's faced by a lot of bodies when you address a parish president's report, is if there is an intent to have a discussion of a matter that is outside of that report, the appropriate practice would be to add that subject matter to the agenda. So that way that there is notice. And it may be, even if the notice is right there at the meeting, by adding it, because clearly adding a matter at the agenda by unanimous vote doesn't give advance notice, but it is a mechanism under the open meetings law to discuss something that was not anticipated far enough in advance to place it on the agenda.
Okay. I know we have items under discussion that people want to talk about different districts, or a council member wants to talk about something. But if they want to discuss it, maybe they leave in early or something. If they want to discuss it, the president opens up that dialogue, or are they allowed to come and continue that dialogue? That's my heartburn. I don't understand why the public can't come back and speak also.
My recommendation would be, if there was an intent to open up a matter of discussion that was not included in the parish president's report and is not otherwise noticed on the agenda, that the appropriate means for moving forward on that subject matter would be adding the matter to the agenda.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'll list, we have a couple of deferrals on the agenda. Items G and H will be deferred. 6G and 6H will be deferred. Items 7B and 7D will be deferred. Yes, sir? 6A1 will be withdrawn, and 6A2 will be deferred. Bids and advertisements, there are none. Next item, please, Ms. Barber.
Beer and liquor licenses.
Mr. Bartholomew? Mr. Black? Okay.
Plaquemines Parish Seafood and Heritage Festival, May 18th through May 20th at 333 F. Howard Avenue Boulevard, Pavilion Grounds.
Mr. Lapine?
I have one. Hello. Belle Chase Rotary Foundation, Post Office Box 844 Bell Chase Highway for a special events for June 2nd, 2018 at the Bell Chase Auditorium. Funds, benefit, and pause. That's all.
Mr. Juneau? Mr. Roussel?
None.
Mr. Byrd? Ms. Salvant? Mr. Edgecombe?
Ms. Williams?
Yes, sir.
Since we're discussing beer and liquor licenses, just a quick question. Are we going to be selling beer or providing beer at the May 2nd event? That way we can get a license or a permit done?
Yes.
To the best of my knowledge, no.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
You want to offer, Mr. Black? Mr. Black offers those beer and liquor license. I'll second. Any questions or comments from the table? Audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. Oh.
You have crawfish and no beer. I don't drink beer, but it's a crawfish burrow. So usually you get crawfish, you think of beer.
Mr. Roussel's away, y'all, so just...
Parish water.
Huh?
Parish water.
Parish water.
Is everyone voted? Mr. Roussel's away. Oh, no, he's there.
I understand.
Your liquor license passes 9-0. Next item, please. Is there any objection? Oh, well, let's do the construction, and then if there's no objection, we can take the B through F in Globo.
E is different. E is a fireworks.
No, B through F. We'll take those in Globo. We'll do the construction A1 by itself.
Right, but E is a fireworks renewal. The others are trailers.
We could do it. Amitra said last time that we could take them in Globo.
Okay. 4A1, Hellas Oil and Gas Company, LLC, application number 2017-148, dated March 5th, 2018. Install 10 pile clusters and 4 pile clusters for barge mooring. Drill the SL195QQ well number 105. Install wellhead protector, 3-inch gas lift line, and 4-inch flow line. East Black Bay Field, Councilmember Bartholomew.
Councilmember Bartholomew.
Offer.
Mr. Bartholomew offers. Is there a second? Yes. Second by Mr. Edgecombe. Mr. Burt, you have a comment?
I'd just like to make a quick comment about Hellas. For probably the last 30 to 40 years, Hellas has operated out of Buras. And I think last year they relocated their base operation to Hopedale. And it's because of the shoaling and the Ostrika locks in that vicinity of Quarantine Bay. So Mr. Vince and I, we've talked about this before. But in speaking to some of the Hellas reps, they're more than willing to come back to Plaquemines Parish if we could do something to get that Ostrika lock in Quarantine Bay cleaned up and navigable for them. So I just want to make a comment on that. Thanks.
Any other questions or comments from the table, from the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. Mr. Roussel's away. Passes 7 yeas, 1 abstention. Next items, please.
4B, Minwin Trailer Park, Van Tran Trailer Park Renewal, Elizabeth Lane, Empire, Louisiana, Councilmember Edgecombe. Minwin Trailer Park, Van Tran, final approval, 9 additional spaces, Elizabeth Lane, Empire, Louisiana, Councilmember Edgecombe. Bernard Percone, 4th Trailer Residence, 29571 Highway 23, Port Suffolk, Louisiana, Councilmember Trufant Salvant. Cardinal Fireworks, Fireworks Stand Renewal, 215 Avenue G, Belle Chase, Louisiana, Councilmember Juneau. Live Oak Grove Properties, LLC, Trailer Park Renewal, 11822 Highway 23, Belle Chase, Louisiana, Councilmember Burt.
Councilmember Burt, you offer?
Yeah, I'll offer, sure.
Offered by Councilmember Burt, seconded by Ms. Salvant. Mr. Edgecombe, you have a comment?
Yes, ma'am. I want to make a comment on B and C, which is Minwin. One of them I had deferred at the last meeting, which I was not here. There were some issues with the health department, but I want to add for the record that both parks are in compliance with health. They did everything the health department said, so they're good to go. Thank you, ma'am.
Any other questions or comments from the table, from the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. Permits passes 9-0. Next item, please.
Introductions of ordinances and resolutions.
Councilmember Bartholomew? Okay. You're up.
Testing, okay. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvement plan, closure of Mardi Gras Pass project, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2018 general fund operating expenditure budget, building general department, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. A resolution authorizing space for the district attorney's office and for the Plaquemine Parish Sheriff's Office, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. And a resolution authorizing the parish president or his designee to do all things necessary and proper to settle and compromise with the case of Midway Cattle Ranch LLC et al. ALV Plaquemine Parish Government UDC-EDLA number 2:17-CV-07468. And otherwise to provide respect thereto. That's all I have, Madam Chairman.
Councilmember Black?
I have 3. A resolution authorizing and directing the parish president or his designee to do all things necessary and proper to provide assistance to the Plaquemine Parish Heritage and Seafood Festival, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2018 general fund manpower structure and operating expenditure budget, recreation facilities and services, and public awareness departments, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2018 general fund manpower structure and operating expenditure budget, recreation facilities and services and parks and monuments, Fort Jackson departments, the 2018 road maintenance fund manpower structure and operating expenditure budget, road maintenance, public right-of-way maintenance department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's all.
Councilmember Lapine? Juneau? You good?
An ordinance to amend and as amended, readopt ordinance number 17-175 regarding the rules and regulations for the use of fireworks in the parish of Plaquemines and to establish violations and penalties, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Thank you.
I have several. A resolution authorizing the acceptance of donations for the Recreation Department and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution declaring the council support for the first Children's Cancer Awareness Walk and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution adopting an official Title VI policy for Plaquemines Parish Transit and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing the Plaquemines Parish government to prepare and submit a pre-application to the statewide flood control program for assistance in the implementation of a project for the purpose of reducing existing flood damages, providing for the necessary documentation of said flood damages and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance authorizing an emergency exception to the hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of the Plaquemines Parish government and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing the parish president or his designee to accept the donation of a model of the MV Victoria for use on and display in the Fort Jackson Museum and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's all. Mr. Russo?
Good.
Mr. Byrd?
Yes, I have 2. You want to give me the mic?
You got it.
Okay. An ordinance authorizing and directing the parish president to enter into a contract with the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development to cut and maintain the grass on medians and right-of-ways on state-owned highways in Plaquemines Parish and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan drainage Jesuit Bend project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That is all.
Salvant?
Yes, I have one. A resolution authorizing the parish president or his designee to do all things necessary and proper to negotiate and execute various leases with local property owners for use by the public and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Edgecombe?
I have one, ma'am.
An ordinance to amend, clarify, and readopt certain sections of Article 4 of the Plaquemines Parish Code of Ordinances and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
That's all? Okay. Okay, at this time, can we move to the next item on the agenda, which would be 6A3?
An ordinance to prohibit the parking of vehicles on Avenue B in Belle Chase from its intersection with the southbound side of Highway 23 to the fenced-in high school football field, to establish a penalty for the violation thereof, to authorize the parish president or his designee to have no parking signs installed, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Councilmember Lapine. Councilman Lapine offers, and Councilmember Juneau seconds. Councilmember Lapine.
Yes, this is brought to my attention by Solid Waste. There is a roll-off recycling bin that is in the parking lot or section behind the high school, or in front of the high school, I apologize. And we have trouble picking it up with the truck. So this, just for clarity, no parking will be from the corner of Highway 23 to the fence line in order to get a roll-up truck to pick up the recycling bin. We've had some violators with people parking right next to the recycle bin, and he has trouble picking it up. Also, the sheriff's office has stepped up and gave us barricades, but the kids have moved the barricades. So my next step is to work in conjunction with the school board and the superintendent to try to supply some more parking spots available for these kids driving to school. We're not taking a no parking sign all the way down Avenue B. I've got a lot of calls. I also got a lot of calls of people parking. So just to clarify this, we're doing this on Solid Waste's request to pick up the recycle bin. So I'll answer any questions if we can.
Any other questions or comments from the table? Questions or comments from the audience?
Oh, okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. Questions or comments from the table? Audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. Ordinance passes 9-0. Next item.
An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of International Marine Terminals Partnership, a Louisiana partnership, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown in a map of re-subdivision of a portion of Myrtle Grove Plantation, portion of Wood Park Plantation into tract Z-2, Z-3, and Z-4, sections 7, 8, 9, and 10, Township 17 South, Range 25 East, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, by Cody A. DeMarco, dating Marquez and Associates, LLC, the owner having fulfilled all of the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines without cost to the Plaquemines Parish government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Councilmember Salvant.
Offer.
Councilmember Salvant offers. I'll second. Councilmember Salvant.
Yes, ma'am. This is basically self-explanatory. It's IMT is offering, moving forward with the re-subdivision of that property to make a way to sell it to the methanol plant. And I think everybody is quite aware of my position on that methanol plant. I'm not in support of, but because it sits in my district, I felt the need to put forth the legislation. But it passed the council a couple of months back, the actual project itself. So I didn't see any reason why I would not be offering the legislation, but I will not be supporting this legislation based on my constituency that live nearby, and they have objections to this methanol plant coming so close, it's close by. So I offer it.
Okay, she offers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mr. Byrd?
Yeah, I'd just like to say this sets the tone as we move forward with attracting new business and industry to the parish, and I think it's a great project, and I will be supporting this legislation. Thank you.
Mr. Russo?
Yes, I also think it's a step forward for some development in the area. My only question was, and if anybody here can answer it, maybe they can't, is that I see that they're subdividing the river lot away from the rest of the property as part of the 3 subdivisions. And I was wondering if they had any specific reason why they were separating the river lot into that 6 acres and how they were going to gain access to that if it happened to be not part of the same ownership.
I think that question should be posed to the permit department.
Well, is there someone in the audience that can answer that question?
Metcalf, you're on.
Councilman Russo, I can certainly speak with planning and zoning and get some information on that aspect of the subdivision. And
I don't want to hold this up. I just thought someone might know, because we are creating a separate lot in the river with access, you know. Anyway, if the owner of the property feels comfortable, I mean, I do too, but I just had a question. Thank you. I don't want to hold it up.
Any other questions or comments from the table? Yeah. Okay. Mr. Juneau?
With this also, because we need a new revenue source, and this will help us out a lot. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, my comment.
Oh.
I can appreciate my colleagues.
Wait, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ms. Audrey. You wasn't on.
I can appreciate my colleagues' comments, but then it would beg the question: where do you live in proximity to this refinery? But I can appreciate your support. And with that, I'll call a question.
Question has been called. Machine is open.
Oh, I'm sorry. Reconsideration.
Okay, Ms. Audrey. This legislation passes 7-2. Next item, please.
An ordinance to appropriate the sum of blank from all oil, natural.
Oh, I'm sorry, he wants to withdraw.
Withdraw?
Well, it's going to fall off. C?
6C. A resolution declaring certain schools and churches to be historical structures worthy of preservation and recognition and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Bartholomew, you offer?
I do.
With the changes?
With the changes.
Mr. Bartholomew offers with the changes being passed out.
On line 1, declaring, say recommending, scratch declaring out, put recommending on line 1. And on line 13, attest to and say recommends. And after values, add be recognized. With those changes, I do offer.
Mr. Bartholomew offers with those changes. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Salvant. Questions or comments from the table? Audience?
Thank you for bringing this up. I presented this resolution to Ms. Williams, hopefully that it would be passed during Black History Month. What this resolution is for, we're trying to get these churches declared as historical landmarks, and this resolution would be part of the application. The school board is introducing the same resolution on Monday night. This is just recognizing that these schools was put together, and it was in African-American churches. And we plan on putting historical landmarks in front of all the churches at no cost to the parish. The church is going to take that off. This is an accomplishment that happened between African-American to make sure that African-American people was educated. I interview a lot of people for a book that I've written called The Forgotten People. And one of the ladies from Belchers would talk about Fort Leon, how they had to walk to Fort Leon to school and get wood, and then how local teachers taught them. So this is just recognizing this accomplishment by African Americans to educate themselves at a time when Plaquemine Parish had separate but equal schools. Even though there was schools for white, but black schools was inferior, or there wasn't none at all. So these churches came together and started the school, and what happened is the school board paid for the teachers, but the school themselves was organized by African Americans, and that's the reason why a lot of African Americans got educated during that time. And so we're applying for designation for historical landmark to be placed in front of all these buildings. So I appreciate the council recognizing this. You're not bounded to anything. You're just saying that you recognize the accomplishment and history that took place in Plaquemine Parish.
Thank you, Reverend Edwards. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, the machine is open. Legislation passes 9-0. Next item.
6D, a resolution declaring the Mount Olive Baptist Church to be a historical structure worthy of preservation and recognition, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
That's my item I'll offer. With the changes that I passed out, you should have had them when you came in. Same changes as Mr. Bartholomew on line 1, scratching declaring and entering recommending. And on line 22, scratching would like to see and inserting recommends. With those changes I offer. Seconded by Mr. Lapine. As Reverend Edwards just stated, this is in conjunction with the other churches. This one just happens to be in my district. So we did a separate resolution for the same reasons that Mr. Edwards just stated in regards to the education of the African American race. But there is a little difference. You want to go ahead?
The difference in this one is that this church was used as a underground right to vote movement. It was used as a clinic where they snuck in civil rights leaders to educate citizens how to take the constitutional test. During registered vote, you had to be able to recite parts of the Constitution. So they brought in civil rights workers in the late hours of the night and pretending it was having church service, but really they was having voter education and registration class. And this particular church was one of those sites that was used along with a house on the East Bank, Reverend Hardy in Bohemia. And so we just want to recognize this church as being the underground right to vote church.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions or comments from the table? Audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. Legislation passes 9-0. Next item.
A resolution authorizing and directing the parish president or his designee to perform a full investigation on asbestos in the water line on the East Bank from White Ditch to Phoenix, and to provide a report to the council and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Councilmember Bartholomew.
I offer.
Councilmember Bartholomew offers. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Edgecombe. Councilmember Bartholomew.
As read.
He offers as read. Is there any questions or comments from the table? Mr. Roussel.
Yes, I'd like to ask that if we're going to do an investigation or a survey of asbestos lines, that include the entire parish, because we have asbestos lines in many areas of the parish. So I'd like to offer the following amendment. Well, you don't have to. I just add the amendment. It says, now therefore be resolved there to include on line 13 and the West Bank from White Ditch to Phoenix. After that word Phoenix, include and the West Bank.
You don't need added to the preamble, is all?
Yes. Same thing on line 7.
Okay. Mr. Russo offers an amendment to the existing resolution. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Black. The amendment. Any questions or comments on the amendment?
Could you read the amendment again, please?
Yes. Where it says on line 3, a resolution authorizing the director parish president as designee to perform a full investigation on asbestos in the water line on the East Bank from White Ditch to Phoenix and the West Bank.
Okay.
Just including the
Yeah, I
West
just
Bank.
wanted to make sure they're here.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Same language on line 7. After the and excuse me, on line 13 after Phoenix and the West Bank.
Mr. Black, you have a comment? You're in the queue.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mr. Russo, 'cause that was the same question I had, but thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, Matt, I just want to say I'm so aware of that, and I'm glad everybody finally chimed in and understanding how important it is for us to get rid of these asbestos line, because they've been in existence for a period of time. But took the initiative to bring it up, and I'm glad the rest of my colleagues decided to get on board with it. Thank you so much.
President Cormier?
Yes, we have our contractor consultant, Mr. Morgan, here with Infomark, and just for purposes of like to get his comments on what the cost of this investigation will be parish-wide.
Stepped out. Oh, I'm sorry. He was in the back. I'm sorry.
Robert Morgan, Infomark. I'm not certain the cost. I was going to ask Cal Associates to assist in that. We're doing it on the East Bank now, but it is asbestos pipe throughout the parish. I'm not actually, I really don't know what type of investigation you want. You just want to know where it's at, or like?
Personally, I'd like to find exactly what the cost of it to remove it.
Move all of it?
Well, that's what they want, yeah. That's what they asked for, the West Bank and East Bank.
I mean, is it safe to operate with this?
Well, wait, I'm sorry. That's not what they want, so I don't know what they want. But I want the asbestos line to be removed. So y'all, whatever the West Bank people want to do, that's fine.
Wait, you got to wait your turn. Mr. Edgecombe?
Yes, ma'am. Just want to clarify that I removed my second because I thought it was necessary for the amendment to be inserted. I would have still seconded the legislation.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. Mr. Russo?
The intention, you know, I don't know what Mr. Bartholomew's intention is, but my intention is to do, if we're going to do an investigation to identify asbestos lines, that we do that parish-wide. And then if we're going to make an effort to replace asbestos lines, that we set priorities based on the funding mechanism that's going to be available. So I think that it's important to hear from Infomark, because I don't think asbestos lines are uncommon, but I do believe that in the future, if we continue to have breaks, that it's necessary to start addressing a priority system.
I do agree with you, Mr. Russell. The East Bank line does continue to break, so that was the priority. But there are plenty asbestos lines through the parish. But what we've been doing when we have a break, we normally repair the line and keep it in service. Now, if we want to, if we have a break in the asbestos line, to take that line section up, that will cost you a pretty good penny. You know, it's a lot of line in the parish to replace if we have a break to just replace that whole section. So that'll take a lot of evaluation to get done. I couldn't just say that's a common practice that we use to just once the line break, we take it out, because we normally don't. We repair the leak and keep moving.
I understand, and I don't know that you have the money to do what you're talking about doing. So I would prefer to see us do an inventory and identify what's there, and then we can take it from there.
Mr.
Right.
Juneau? Oh, wait, hold on. You took yourself out the queue. Go ahead.
Yes, sir, Mr. Morgan. I was at a convention a few months ago, and I was talking to a couple of gentlemen that had to do this up north Louisiana. And they said the best way to save money is to leave the asbestos line in the ground. That way you don't have to pull it up and find a place. It costs you more to bury it. I guess you already know that, though.
Yes, sir. If we 9 times out of 10, we really don't want to deal with it, because it's really supposed to be certified to actually deal with a asbestos line, like to take it out. Most contractors prefer if you replace it, to leave it in the ground, because you have to have different permits just to touch it and transport it to different locations.
Right. I'm glad you're up on that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Black, did you have something? Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, asbestos cause cancer, without a doubt. And I think at the time those lines were put in place, that wasn't identified as such a dangerous composition of a compound that would cause cancer. It needs to be removed. And we're asking that be removed. Matter of fact, parish-wide. And I think we just have to step up to the plate and do what we have to do. to eliminate that. It's just that's very cancerous, and anytime it breaks, you have particles that goes through the line. Now, it may wind up in people drinking water, may drink that stuff, and that's not good. And that's not good. So here we're condemning, and then we're going to say, well, put it in priority. Where's the priority? All of it need to be removed.
I just want to be cautious now. Asbestos pipe is being used throughout the world, throughout the United States, and
it's not cancerous. Asbestos not cancerous.
It depends what form too. Now,
asbestos not cancerous.
I don't know that.
Wait, I'm asking you a question.
I don't know that.
Is asbestos cancerous?
Okay.
FEMA trailer people being sued because of that being asbestos.
But I just don't want
all
to
the shipyard that asbestos are being sued. They're still being sued.
But
millions of dollars to cause asbestos.
But I know I just don't want to get the public all uproar about the line.
It is. It's dangerous for us.
It's dangerous, but I'm just saying it's not to the point where we can't produce quality water. People already.
If that line breaks and that asbestos getting that water and I drink it, what happens to me? Is there a possibility of me getting cancer?
I don't know. I don't.
Why not? Why don't you know?
Not a medical doctor.
I don't know about
that. Hey, well, the idea is you're dealing with the water. You know what asbestos can do. Well, you find that out for me.
I'll find that out.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Lawrence?
Yes, Mr. Bartholomew, by the way this resolution is written, I'm assuming that on the East Bank, the only place they have asbestos lines is between White Ditch and this vicinity. I don't know why it's determining anything. It's the whole parish. If you want to survey the asbestos line, survey it the whole parish, whether it be on the East Bank just between White Ditch and whatever they're talking about, or is there other places on the East Bank that besides White Ditch and stuff that has asbestos? I'm sure there is.
First off, Mr. Lawrence, I don't live on the West Bank, and I don't know what goes on the West Bank. I don't know the condition of the water lines on the West Bank, but I do know the condition of the water line on the East Bank. Now, this been brought up before, discussion about that asbestos line. Now I introduced the legislation to bring in the forefront. Now, just as Mr. Roussel amended, he said they have other asbestos line on the West Bank, and I support that. I need to remove them all. So it's just not that, and not knowing. If I knew, I'd include the whole parish. So what happened? The other council members should have put that into play too, if they knew. Maybe they didn't know.
Well, and the one question I asked you was, forget the West Bank. On the East Bank, the only place
to have, I know that one. I don't know
but I mean, are there other places besides East Bank to White Ditch to Phoenix that has asbestos lines?
Ask Mr. Morgan. He does the water line, not me.
Well, our engineer's going to know that.
What Mr. Lawrence is trying to say is include the entire East Bank.
Exactly.
Not
It's
just
not
from
the
White
entire
Ditch.
East Bank.
Exactly.
We talked about all other lines before on the East Bank that we mentioned, and it wasn't by areas. None of that came up with that area. It only came up from White Ditch to Phoenix. And that was the only area that asbestos was being served at that was said. Now, did I do a study on the whole East Bank? No. Do I have what they call this cast iron line that's steady breaking, that's contaminated every week, every other week, once a month, twice a month? Yes. Do we need a water tower? Yes. Do we need to put 40 pounds of pressure in some areas because of the line is deteriorating? So, I mean, I can give you a whole list of stuff about water line problems.
I'm just saying that in behalf of the public, if there is a problem with asbestos, don't limit it just to White Ditch and stuff, East Bank or West Bank. All of Plaquemine should be studied.
Well, that's
period.
what this is.
Okay.
You didn't hear that with Mr. Roussel Aldrin? I'm sorry, I thought you heard it.
No, Mr. Roussel left in on the East Bank. The only thing would be studied on the East Bank was the White Ditch to Phoenix. What I'm asking is that don't limit to that on the East Bank. Do it to the whole parish wide. If it's a problem, treat the whole parish as a problem.
It is a problem. Asbestos is a problem, don't you think?
I know.
All right, then. Let's do with it.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Ragus?
Ken Ragus, 1311 Holiday Place, New Orleans, Louisiana. On an asbestos pipe, just don't be misled by the fact that the inside of this pipe is coated with non-asbestos substance. I have 2 joints of the pipe that I recovered and use them as drainage pipes, but don't be misled to the point that the water is passing through the pipe
and picking up asbestos. The pipe was designed for the asbestos not to be a problem. Of course, if you take the pipe and bust it up, then you're going to get little pieces of. But if you want to go through the whole shamil with all the pipes in Plaquemine Parish, a method should be come forth that we could check sections of the pipe or whatever and see what's in it. All you have to do is drill a hole in it with a hole cutter. I mean, that's a contract deal. But asbestos pipe is lined with a non-asbestos material. As far as my knowledge of picking them up and using them. They were nice and slick on the inside with a green coating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I have one more thing I just want to add, Madam Chairman. I see water, eventually when it drops, it erodes cement. I see water deteriorate iron pipes over the years from inside because of the pressure that it deals with being constant. That's what I observed. That's all, Madam Chairman.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? State your name, please.
Joel Frederick, 15383 Highway 15, Davant. Yeah, I think what Mr. Lawrence meant is to check the pipes on the East Bank from Braidway to Bohemia instead of just from White Dish to Phoenix. That's all I wanted to say.
Well, Mr. Bartholomew meant that line section that he's talking about, that's the one we have problems with. That's the main line that keeps breaking. That's the one that's giving, I know in the breakway, Reverend Giles, it's giving a lot of people trouble. It's giving us trouble. So that's what he's talking about, I'm pretty sure, right?
That's right.
That's the one.
Machine is open. On the amendment.
One vote pending.
I do understand, Mr. Lawrence. You don't understand.
Kirk, you want to vote on this? No, that's okay.
Understand quite well.
The amendment passes 9-0. That was for the amendment. Now we have to vote to pass the legislation as amended.
Three votes pending.
The item as amended, the legislation passes 9-0. Next item, please.
A resolution expressing the Plaquemines Parish's council support of a toll being placed on the Belle Chase Bridge and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Councilmember Bartholomew. Councilmember Bartholomew offers. Is there a second? Is there a second? Ms. Salvant will second for discussion only. Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, there it is. Anybody have questions? Comments?
Anyone have any questions or comments?
I am concerned the fact that if we don't build this bridge and bypass, the port will have some serious problems down the road. But here nor there, but that's what just in case we don't have the funding from the state to build it, there's a possibility the state may impose a toll on the bridge. It's not up to us as a public agency to put the toll on, but the state. But all this does is say that if it comes to tuition that the state don't have any money, and we need to move forward, that this council have no objection of implementing the toll or support of the toll.
Any other questions? Any other comments for discussion on this topic? Hearing none?
Yeah, I'm sorry. You on the toll bridge?
Yes.
Yeah. They had a group called Franklin Consulting Company came and met at my church and Joe Frederick there, several met with them, and they was asking our opinion about the toll on the Belchett Bridge in order to get a toll, what our opinion was, and the folks at the meeting came up and say that if the parish council can see fit to ask the East Bank people to pay a toll on a ferry that they shouldn't be paying, then the residents of the West Bank shouldn't have any problem with that. And then some of us took the position is that how long the toll would be and how much it would be. And because I share, my wife she travel every day, and I count at $2 a day, 52 weeks, that's like $520 a year that she would have to pay. So, anything that saves some money in my household, I'm definitely going to, be against that. So we didn't get a clear thing for them, but they said they're going throughout the parish to continue to talk to people on the East Bank. I told them, well, people on the East Bank going to say tow Belchase because they told us on that ferry when we shouldn't do it. And we just think that hope the parish began to look at decisions you make and how it affect the whole parish and how we need each other, and so we got to do better. I'm hoping that the parish find it hard to remove that toll on the Belchase ferry and the Pearl Hedge ferry because they're really targeting mostly people on the East Bank of Plaquemine Parish. So I hope you really reconsider that. Maybe Mr. Solomon, you might want to do that as a resolution to take the tolls off of that. And I think when this thing do come to a vote, that you get better support from people on the East Bank of the river.
Any other questions or comments for this item?
With that saying in discussion, Ms. Audrey, you withdraw your second? Okay. I'll withdraw the resolution. Point has been made, so it's up to the people in Belchase to move forward.
Next item, please.
6I, an ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan, Waterline Milan Drive project, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Councilmember Edgecombe. Councilmember Edgecombe offers. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Bartholomew. Councilmember Edgecombe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a grant that came available. Y'all can see the amount, $125,240. What it does is connects Milan Drive and Caroline Avenue together. And also they've been having some major problems. And I talked with Mr. Ken Dugas this morning, and he said this would help alleviate some of the problems that they are having.
Any questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. Ordinance passes 9-0. Next item.
An ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan for the Restore Act project and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Councilmember Edgecombe. Councilmember Edgecombe's office. Is there a second? Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Salvant. Councilmember Edgecombe.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Actually, Chris with Collins Associates to come explain this Restore Act program. That way it can be better understood. Chris?
Is it okay to shut this? Is it okay to close this? Chris Nadish and Collins Associates, 638 Village Lane North, Mandeville, Louisiana. We are the Restore Act grant administrators. What this does is basically the direct component monies of Pot 1 from the BP oil spill monies were distributed to all the Gulf coastal states. Louisiana also takes part of its monies and directs it to, on a percentage basis, to the various coastal parishes within the state of Louisiana. Grants have to be applied for by the various parishes to the U.S. Treasury. There's a lengthy paperwork that needs to be done. You need to explain exactly what the project is. Anybody that's involved in the grants any of their contracts need to be provided as amendments to, or not amendments, but attachments to the grant. So what this does is the monies go through asap.gov, which is the administrating arm or the disbursement arm of the federal government. It's basically going to be passed through the parish to the people working on these various coastal restoration projects. And from my understanding, a budget item needed to be created at the parish level. I don't know if the finance director's here, but a budget item needed to be created at the parish level. That's why this ordinance is on the books.
Is there any specific projects that this money is going?
The current grant that was applied for and has been awarded to Plaquemines Parish is for Bayou Noir headland restoration.
So that's what this.
That's the current project. That's the only project so far that has been grant monies have been applied for.
And is that this total $4 million, or is that part?
No, $4 million. My understanding, the reason the parish finance director put the $4 million is because to date, Plaquemines Parish has been awarded this $4 million number to date. There's going to be a series of monies over 20 years broken out based on, it's a percentage breakout for various parishes.
Okay. Mr. Russo?
Yes, I'd like to offer the following amendment after the line 14, section 1, after 2018, insert, no expenditure from this account shall be made without a specific ordinance dedicating the funds to a specific project.
Yes, sir.
No expenditure should be made. Seconded by, amendment is offered by Mr. Russo, seconded by Mr. Badalamy. Can you read that
Yes,
again?
no expenditure from this account shall be made without a specific ordinance dedicating the funds to a specific project. At section 1, at the end of the line 14, it begins.
Can I make a comment? For example, our grant administration efforts are also covered by the grant, which are not a specific project name. I don't know how that would affect that amendment.
Well, what this does puts an accountability to the count. Okay. So if you have an ordinance, if you have a bill that needs to be paid, then we would have to appropriate a certain amount of money for that bill out of this account.
Per every invoice?
Well,
or per contract?
I don't know about the contract because I don't know what your contract is.
I would say per project.
Per project location.
But what about the administration of the grant, of the administration of the overall Grants and Restore Act?
Well, what is the fee for administering this? 10%?
I'm sorry.
No, it's actually about 4%. 3% is what it's actually at.
All right.
I have a contract that has a dollar amount, but my efforts are not specifically tied to a specific project.
You have a contract that's worth a dollar amount, so we will pass an ordinance appropriating that dollar amount out of this fund.
Gotcha.
That'll cover your contract.
There you go. Okay.
It's all covered.
Right.
Right.
All right.
Burt? Yes. Mr. Burt, you have something?
I was just going to say that I believe you guys were a part of the RFP process and were selected.
That is correct.
The purpose of this is to make an accounting of our coastal funds to know where they're going. That's all.
Sure.
Mr. Badalamy, you have something?
For the $4 million that we're going to spend?
No, not at this time.
So if for
correct.
each different project, you get another
Correct.
different
Correct. This
contract?
particular, right, correct. The dollar amount that's on this ordinance is what's been awarded to Plaquemines Parish to date. It's not
Yeah, I
for
understand that.
specific.
But I'm saying each project that if we put into play or to operate or vote on, that means each contract would be different. Each project.
Yeah. The parish has to develop an MYP, an MYIP, a multi-year implementation plan. In that multi-year implementation plan, a project is stated in the MYP, and that it may not be for the entire amount that the parish is using for its matching funds, because these are what the parish is using these funds for. CPRA requires matching funds. Or would like to see matching funds. And the parish is using this as their matching funds. So the project isn't stated in the MYP. It may not be stated for the entire design fee amount at the time because of what's allotted or what's been awarded to the parish to date. Currently, there is an amendment out there for the MYP that does cover that.
Thank you. That's all, Madam Chairman, I have.
Okay, any other questions or comments? Shane? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Natterson, just for clarity's sake, the money, we don't have the money in hand yet. We're just creating the budget item, and we have to apply for each based upon the multi-year implementation plan. Is that correct?
Correct. You apply. The grant is specific and will be audited by the federal government. It is specific for the project, and multiple forms of documentation are needed for this.
Right. So we have to develop the multi-year implementation
plan. Correct.
Several projects.
Correct. And you may have a multi-year implementation plan that says $5 million, but you're not applying for a grant at that time for $5 million. You're applying for a grant for a specific project or a specific portion of a project.
Yes. Yeah, we did.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Burt, you good? Okay. Mr. Barbe?
Yes. This money, it's federal money, right?
That is correct.
Can you come up to the microphone?
There are already federal guidelines that cover this. Is that correct?
That is correct. There's this extensive CFR federal guidelines for this.
So what if we are using this money for, say, the matching portion, if we have to come back and pass an ordinance, how is that going to affect allocating that money?
Well, it will delay the money, your ability to basically go to ASAP and process whatever invoices that you have. That's the only effect that I foresee it would have.
And so, in effect, it will delay any projects that we're working on if we have to pass a separate ordinance for every one of these.
I would see possibly that happen. Yeah.
Is there actual oversight without having passed an ordinance? Is there? I mean, like the Treasury has specific.
Yeah, correct. Part of our scope of work is to require specific things in the invoices, and the parish has us review the invoices because the federal government is going to come back and audit everything in that grant. So we are responsible for making sure all of the T's are crossed, all the I's are dotted within that grant.
So it's already a public record as to where all this money is. Is that correct?
I would say yes.
So when we add our ordinance, we're just adding another layer of bureaucracy on top of it, in effect.
It does, but what I would see this doing is the parish would then, as the MYP is put together, name the projects in the MYP so that it could be covered at once.
Okay. So we could, in fact, pass an ordinance that would just more or less authorize the spending
of the projects that are in the MYP. Correct. Because we have an MYP, we have put together the parish's MYP that should cover you for the next 5 years. So I would suggest that language from the MYP or the projects from the MYP be put in whatever this ordinance is that needs to be passed. And that way you would avoid specific delays.
Mr. Russo?
No, I think Mr. Barber did a great job in leading the witness on to his position. However, as this budget has to come before us, if it didn't have to come before us, we wouldn't be here passing an ordinance appropriating the funding. Now, having said that, my intention is to be as transparent with the projects as possible, to be able to allow this council to know where our coastal program is going, since there's less transparency in that department than I like. So, having said that, I would appreciate the fact that when we have a project, we appropriate the money for it, just as he has a contract. He'll come back to us with an ordinance to appropriate the money for his contract, and we will pay it. The next project comes along, and we will appropriate the money for that project. Now, that doesn't do anything other than allow everybody to be on the same page, because we know from the past history of this government by not going through the budget and having transparency where we are today. So the last thing I would hope is that somebody would be advocating less transparency on a project of this nature to be able to allow us to know what's going on as well as the public. So it's simply a transparency issue. And when we talk about delays, you know, the delay factor would be the introduction of an ordinance, laying over 2 weeks, and the adoption of an ordinance. So 2 to 3, 4 weeks at the most would be a delay. And in this world of the government, that is minuscule compared to the delays that we face on simple issues that we deal with every day.
I'd like to add also, if it brings any comfort to anyone, there is language in my contract as well as a contract with Bayou Noir that states the parish is not obligated to pay for anything until the Restore Act funds are available, and which would be in asap.gov.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Edwards?
What I was trying to figure out is that if this is a coastal project and it's going to involve all the Plaquemines, what was done up front? Seemed like to me when you're applying for any kind of grant, you would meet with all the, seemed like the council should have been involved in this project from the very beginning and saying what kind of project it is, what area is going to, because I was just sitting down wondering, well, who decided on this grant? Who made the decision? And what project was put in there to get the grant? So it seemed like me, you know, we come in, you know, the old people saying we put the cart before the wagon. And I just think that this council should have been involved in this, the parish government as a whole. And so when the application was submitted, everything was already, would be in the application that these are our project, these are the 5 communities, these are 5 areas, this is the amount. And then when the money came down, whatever the percentage of administration, then you take that percentage off the grant on top. That's established. But the amount of the grant and administrative money is always, if you say 4%, then whatever that grant is, you automatically get 4% of what that is. That's what the contractor get. But it seemed like to me, to have the council talking about this now mean that you are not organized as you should be together, parish government and coastal restoration, because there's going to be much more money coming out for coastal restoration. And if we're going to have to do this on every project, then I could see us having some serious problems. I think there should be a meeting between the parish council and the administration and the coastal people to saying what we need to do for coastal project for the amount of money that's coming down. So then you all are one mind. So when stuff coming down, you don't have to be asking all these questions that are being asked right now.
Thank you, Reverend Edwards. Mr. President?
Yes, I appreciate some of the concern that's been stated. And that's why this administration made the contracts, redid a lot of the contracts from before so that this parish government would not incur liabilities until that funding was available. Restore Act monies, this is a first brand new program. First time that Treasury, United States Treasury Department, is administering this type of grant money. The regulations and the burdens and the requirements that they're requiring are incredibly cumbersome. And one has to, if anyone would go in and look at the Code of Federal Regulations, if you want sleeping material, go in and start reading some of these requirements. Now, I recognize that I don't think this administration has done anything if anything, the contracts we've implemented are to protect the parish so that we wouldn't have expenditures being made and debt being incurred without money being available to pay for it. At the same time, though, this is this level. We brought this to the council because as the legislative body, it's legitimate for the council to see monies and to recognize those revenues. If I'd be more than glad to get copies of the Code of Federal Regulations, and U.S. Treasury and ASAP will have all this stuff on public record. I can guarantee you this, though, if we try to have the administrative functions being performed by the legislative body, it will slow up. For example, this amendment that's before you today, U.S. Treasury is reviewing everything. They demand paperwork on everything. And be more than glad if someone has questions, schedule a sit down with U.S. Treasury. But my concern is my desire is to get projects done for this parish as quickly as possible without unnecessary delays. And actions have consequences, and such as this amendment will add another layer of bureaucracy on top of what the Code of Federal Regulations and U.S. Treasury already has in place. And if anyone would like for me to set up a meeting with Treasury and some of the people who are overseeing this, any council members, I'd be more than glad to do so.
Mr. Roussel?
I appreciate your comments. This has nothing to do with Treasury or distrust of the Treasury or distrust of the administration. This is strictly an accounting mechanism that allows this body to fulfill its duties under the charter to appropriate funds for projects. And if it's not viewed that way, I'm really sorry for that, but that's the facts.
Any other questions or comments?
The only thing I was saying, Mr. President, is that it's being delayed every time when you bring something and then you got to get the parish input. The only thing I'm suggesting is that the minute you know you need to do something, is just let the council member look. We just got some money coming down to come from Treasury. The regulation is there. My office is going to take care. At least they upfront, they know what's happening, and they can make some suggestion, whether they legal-minded to understand all these regulations for the Treasury. At least they know up front, and then you wouldn't have to have people coming up here again, because it's still going to delay it, because the council don't know anything about it. It's going to be delayed. So it seems like to me, bring it up front. And I only do what I'm telling you because for the years that I've been watching coastal restoration where it worked effective in other parishes, you see the executive and the legislative work together. They have citizen review people working with their coastal restoration where everybody's involved in the project, because if you need to go to the legislature, they got more people supporting. And I don't think it's taking anything from the administration by doing it. I think it would help this administration when things come up with coastal restoration. Soon as you hear it, ask them for their opinion on it, saying it's coming down, what you think about it, whether it's coming out the fact, because somebody had to do some work to get it to where it's at now. It just didn't get to where it's at now. And I'm just saying they could have been involved in that, in filling out that application, giving you some information. That way, I think it will save you much time. And I think I made the suggestion to you one time before a couple of years ago, and we're still back. And I think you need to open yourself up to bring yourself to count. And I already know that you and the council you have a love-hate relationship, but sometimes, you still got to go through that, and sometimes you have to be better than other people, but if you establish something that's based on doing the right thing, you can find who's not right by doing the right thing. So I just think that you need to the whole coastal restoration for the parish, I still don't understand it. What's really happening with it. I know one time Billy was the coastal restoration one time, and he did good and he did bad things, But I thought we would move past that with you as the new administration, including the parish, whether they criticize you or not and throw jabs at you, which they do. But I think you got to be bigger than that and present something to them, and I think that will save us a lot more time.
Mr. Roussel. Mr. Roussel?
Let him respond. I'll hold.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman Roussel, for letting me respond. And I appreciate your comments, Reverend Edwards. Let me say this before I forget. There was an oil spill in the river, and that's the only reason why our coastal director, Mr. Frelish, had to go out and work on getting Carnarvon closed because there was an oil spill. But Reverend Edwards, you had once, commented commented or complimented the prior administration on their handling of some of these coastal issues, and by bringing forth this ordinance before the council, I'm doing more than what some of the steps by the prior people in the past. At the same time, though, I will say this: there's an exchange between getting things done efficiently and having an approach where we take time to just allow for multiple layers of review. And so I thought that this was a middle ground approach, striking a balance. It's the council's decision, but as you did note, you complimented once Mr. P.J. Hahn, and they certainly weren't waiting around. They've moved on projects. So I think there's a balance that can be struck, and I thought that we struck it in this ordinance. But there's trade-offs between getting things done and having multiple redundant layers of review. So, but thank you, though.
Rousseau?
Yeah, my only final comment is that I think it's an obligation of this government to know where the funding is gone, to appropriate the funding, and to be involved. And just to give a carte blanche check to any administration, whether it be yours or the next administration, is not what I was elected to do. I was elected to be here to reflect on the expenditures, the budget, and make sure that I understand where the funding is gone. History shows that operating without that transparency leads to a lot of government waste, and I don't intend to be a part of that. So I put this amendment in and ask for your support and call a question.
Call a question. The question has been called.
Yes.
We'll be voting on the amendment to allow the amendment at this time. Passes 9-0. Now open the machine to vote on the ordinance as amended. Legislation passes 9-0. Next item, please.
A resolution authorizing the parish president or his designee to accept a donation from the Rotary Clubs of Belle Chase and Plaquemine South of a 36-inch by 42-inch historical marker in memory of Paul Harris, the founder of Rotary, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
This is my legislation, and I'll offer. Can I get a second? Seconded by Mr. Edgecombe. Sorry, Mr. Lapine. This legislation is just honoring the founder of the Rotary Club. And I don't see anyone here in the audience to speak on it. But Mr. Edgecombe is the president of the South Plaquemines the Rotary Club on the southern end of the parish. So I'll let him elaborate on this. This will be placed in my district.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The founder of Paul Harris, believe it or not, back in the hurricane of 1893, wound up working in Buras at the orange plantation. I wasn't aware of until recently, actually this year, that's where Citrus City gets its name from, because it used to be the orange plantation, which I wasn't aware of that. I learned a lot when Dr. Gooey came to one of our meetings and explained the history, and I was very amazed with what I heard and what I understood. But with this marker being placed at the museum, we are, Belle Chase and also South Plaquemine Rotary are trying to get Louisiana tourism to possibly find a way to place someone there while we don't have the museum open, someone part-time there.
Well, we don't have the museum open. The position is funded, so it's in civil services hands. We appropriated those funds in the budget hearing. Just to make a note, but
yes, ma'am.
Go on.
Thank you. But with that said, we are trying to help to to get something going back at the museum like we all wanted to do in the beginning. That's all, ma'am.
Any other comments on this resolution? From the table? Audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. He's not at the... Resolution passes 8-0. Mr. Byrd, away from the table. Next item.
An ordinance to approve the amended pay plan adopted by the Civil Service Commission on February 20, 2018 to create the classifications of diesel maintenance mechanic Tier 2 and 3, diesel mechanic technician, air conditioning mechanic technician, hydraulic mechanic technician, Tier 4, diesel mechanic technician, to delete the classification of diesel mechanic and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Let's pass over this item because I was going to let the president elaborate on this because he's the one that requested this. I don't see anyone from civil service here to speak on this item. So when he comes back in the room, we'll revert back to it. Are you familiar with this, Mr. Okay, I'm sorry. Strike that. Let's move on the item. I'll offer. Can I get a second? Seconded by Mr. Bartholomew. Mr. Beschel? Yes, go ahead, sir.
We have no mechanic in the parish right now. With all the sophisticated engines we have nowadays, we cannot hire anybody with the current rate. And to hire for Tier 1, 2, and 3, they can go into the computers and check things. So we have to have these different classifications in order to try and hire somebody that can fix our trucks and vehicles without having to send it out every time something happens. Basically, that's what it is.
Okay, and it's my understanding that by doing this, it's actually going to be a reduction in the budget and not an increase. Based on a letter that we received from Civil Service.
In the budget, I don't know about the total budget, but with the classifications that you're going to have an increase probably in per pay from the last time I looked at it. Is that what it says there? Because I don't have it in front of me.
There's nothing in the ordinance that states anything about the pay. I'm going on a letter that we received from the Civil Service Department dated March 26th. And it states, several of these positions are vacant at this time, resulting in a cost reduction to the 2018 adopted original manpower budget. The Port Harbour Terminal District budget will be reduced by $2,851 per year for salaries only, and the PPG budget will be reduced by $4,231 per year for salaries only. FICA and retirement will also reflect an additional reduction. So do you have any idea how much the budget will increase by making these changes? I mean, are there funds available in the budget?
Yeah.
Are there funds available in the budget?
I don't know if you all have released, or if we have money in the budget for that. I never looked at that.
So if we pass this, then we'll have
I
to
think
come
it
back
is.
with something
Is it funded? I never.
This is why I would like for civil service to be here for these meetings for issues like this. Do you mind if I defer this so we can get some
That would be
clarity?
fine. We'll get to it next time. I have more information next time.
Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Bartholomew.
I think it's just to create the position, not to fill it. That's not in our workforce. The classification of it. If I understand correctly, that's what that's for.
So it's not going to affect the budget in any way?
We're not seeking employment right now, no.
Well, he just stated we don't have any diesel mechanics and we need to seek them. We need to change the classification, which to me would be more money.
Yeah, but I don't think he's asking for any money. He's just asking for the position.
Okay, at this time.
Civil service. But either way, yeah. I'm just saying what it is, but I think the veterans
I'm going to defer.
To create the position to hire somebody.
Request that civil service director be in attendance today. It's just a total insult to this council for us to have to beg, borrow, and steal and run behind this lady.
That's what I was trying to say.
So it's going to be a moot point anyway. Once you create it, it still has to
allocate the funds.
So
Exactly. You have to, but
Yeah, I'm anxious to move to the
I'm going to defer this item to
legislation.
the
All right.
next meeting. And can you, someone please see that civil service is here?
call the police.
Yes, Mr.
Why don't you want me? I think it's a great time.
Yeah, we're going to
Suspend the
move.
rules.
We're going to move. Okay, Mr. Edgecombe would like to offer a motion to suspend the rules. Mr. Edgecombe?
Yes, ma'am, I would. Ms. Barber, would you please read it?
A resolution expressing the dissatisfaction of the Plaquemines Parish Council, the governing authority of Plaquemines Parish, with the leadership of the Plaquemines Parish Civil Service Department and Executive Director Ellen Barrios, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Edgecombe makes an offer to suspend the rules and add this item to today's agenda.
Yes, ma'am, please.
Is there a unanimous second? Any objections to adding this item from anyone in the audience? Table?
Go.
Let's open the machine, please, to vote on adding this item to the agenda. Suspending the rules to add it to the agenda. I'll second it. So unanimous second. Yes. Legislation to add the item to the agenda passes 9-0. Can you read it again, please, so we can vote on?
A resolution expressing the dissatisfaction of the Plaquemines Parish Council, the governing authority of Plaquemines Parish, with the leadership of the Plaquemines Parish Civil Service Department and Executive Director Ellen Barrios, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Edgecombe? Mr. Edgecombe offers to take this item up at this time. I'll second. Any questions or comments from the table?
Who is this person responsible to? Who's her boss?
It's our understanding it's the Civil Service Commission.
So if you all sent something to the Civil Service Commission telling them the need for her to be, because I know one time the Civil Service person was at all the meetings. And so just going to the Civil Service Commission, this resolution y'all passing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it will. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, the machine is open. Legislation passes 9-0. Next item.
6M, an ordinance authorizing an emergency exception to the hiring freeze currently enacted on all vacant positions of Plaquemines Parish government, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Roussel. What this was provided to me by Finance. This is vacant positions, correct, Ms. Angie?
I'm reading right now.
Silo waste 1, truck driver 2, and flood control foreman and heavy equipment operator.
This came from Mr. Johnson's office. It's a request from his office.
Are they funded? Are they funded? That's
They're
not
funded.
okay.
All of them are funded.
And they're vacant.
One position, it says an employee will be transferred from truck driver to automated truck driver to solid waste north.
If they're funded, they're funded.
Yes, they're funded.
Any questions or comments from the table? Audience? Hearing none, the machine is open.
One vote pending. Okay.
Legislation passes 8-0. Mr. Edgecombe, away from the table. Next item, please.
Ms. Williams,
Yes.
I believe N and O are going to be deferred. Is that correct?
That's fine. Yeah, no one, this came from y'all, so that's fine. No one notified me.
I believe it was.
Okay, that's fine. Okay. We'll defer items N and O. No one notified me, I'm sorry.
6P, a resolution authorizing Plaquemines Parish President Amos Cormier to execute supplemental agreement number 1, which amends the existing cooperative endeavor agreement between the Parish of Plaquemines and the Parish of Jefferson, dated July 5, 2016, authorized by resolution number 16-188, adopted on June 9, 2016, for right-of-way acquisition for Peters Road Bridge and Extension Phase 2, State Project Number 826-63-001, H.008068, to provide for a time extension of 1 year, which does not increase the cost to Plaquemines Parish.
Councilmember Rousseau.
I'll offer it.
Councilmember Rousseau offers, seconded by Councilmember Burt. Councilmember Rousseau.
Yes, what this does is we are one parcel away from completing the acquisitions on Phase 2 of the Peters Road Extension, and that's the pull-apart facility. And what this does, it gives them a little extra time to acquire that piece of property so the project can move forward as far as Phase 2 of the construction of that project. The agreement is an extension of 12 months. However, I've been assured that it won't take 12 months, but we put that in there to make sure that there's no delay in the project. So it doesn't cost us anything. Jefferson Parish pays for this. It's on Jefferson Parish's side. So I ask for your support to keep Project Peters Road moving.
Any questions or comments from the table? Mr. Cormier?
Yes, and I'll be more than glad to sign this. I will note this, though. In the contract, while we are being told that DOTD has, and I'll read from the footnotes. Well, first, the funding table for the roadway control section has percentage paid by entity. The entity is Plaquemines Parish government. There's another percentage paid by DOTD, and there's a percentage paid by FHWA. On right-of-way acquisition and relocation, it's 20% to be paid by Plaquemines Parish government. Now, there are footnotes there that says DOTD to provide capital outlay priority 1 funds in the amount of $292,916,000 for final mods and $151,904 for split plans and revenue new DOTD specs. And footnote 5, DOTD to provide capital outlay priority 1 funds in the amount of $416,000 for ROW right-of-way acquisition phase 2 and $130,000 ROW right-of-way services. What I recommend is that we put a footnote 6 where the entity limits its liability to the capital outlay funds provided by DOTD. That way, truly, Plaquemines Parish will not be on the hook in case GCR or any other contractor exceeds the amount of the capital outlay funds. As the contract reads now, we will be on the hook for 20% if once and if those amounts are exceeded. That's my suggestion for the sake of transparency and accountability.
And all I would do is read you Exhibit A supplemental agreement that we're adopting. It clearly states that Jefferson Parish is a reliable partner here, and throughout it says at no cost to Plaquemines Parish. I'm not sure what footnotes you're reading, but in the document that I have here, it's very clear that the cooperative endeavor agreement, the supplemental agreement to the existing cooperative endeavor agreement authorizing a new termination date is the only thing that we're affecting. Everything else is in effect now. So if you look at the changes in the document where it deletes the time frame only, Jefferson Parish is on the hook for this $80,000. If you look at the supplemental state project number, Jefferson Parish Public Works project there, you'll see that it's Jefferson Parish, 80,000. And as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't increase anything other than change the agreement from time frame.
And Councilman Russo, I'm looking at supplemental agreement number 1, which is the one that just extends the date.
Correct.
But I'm citing from supplemental agreement number 2 is where, and I'd be more than glad to show this to you or show it to clerk right now, what I'm referencing, if you'd like to see it. And my concern is just that the contract says we're on the hook for 20%, and then it puts a footnote where DOTD limits the amount of funding They got a cap on their liability, but once if we sign supplemental 1, it follows supplemental 2 right there behind it. So just wanted to highlight that for sake of transparency. If you'd like to see it, I could pass this to you.
Councilmember Byrd, you have something to say?
On that, is the amendment number 2 you're talking about, is that what was provided to you by BKI recently?
This was from
Signature?
DOTD.
What about the $2 million that was allocated by the regional planning? Is that also factored in there?
I believe that's for the other 406.
No, it's for Peters Road.
No, they allocated funding for Peters Road.
Which phase are you?
I think it's the same thing we're talking about here. But anyway, I won't bog it down. But
That could come. That may be. You may be correct. That could come from FHWA because the right-of-way acquisition for their part is 80%. You might be referencing that.
Right. Well, my only issue here is that this has been delayed too long. My legislation simply extends the time frame of what is existing now, and further delay will not do us any good. I don't think this puts us liable for any additional funding. It's very clear to me on the supplemental agreement as to what we're saying, and I'll call the question.
Question has been called. The machine is open. Legislation passes 8-1. At this time, I'd like to, at the request of Councilmember Edgecombe, revert back to introductions of ordinances and resolutions. Councilmember Edgecombe.
Ms. Barber, please.
An ordinance to appropriate funding for the grant administrator with the Restore Act program from U.S. Treasury funds and for the design services of Bayou Au Noir from U.S. Treasury Restore Act funds and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you, ma'am. That's all, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. You have an intro too, Mr. Batali? Okay, Mr. Batali has an introduction as well.
An ordinance to appropriate the sum of blank from the all oil and natural gas minimum revenues received by Plaquemine Parish, governed from the public land grant to the Grand Prairie Levy District for the Plaquemine President to employ and fund and employment personnel necessary to carry out the duties and the responsibility and charges to revenues derived from those lands composing of the Grand Prairie Levy District and all other property set out in the Act of Louisiana Legislature, the Charter for Local Self-Government for Plaquemine Parish, adopt the election held on May 13, 1961, and it's amending and reacting the Charter for Local Self-Government, so amend and reacted by election held on April 5th, 1986, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. That's all, Madam Chairman. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. This time, let's move to item 7. Wait, hold on 1 minute, please. Mr. Roussel?
Yes, Madam Chairman. At this time, I seek a suspension of the rules to add to today's agenda the following item and for consideration today, a resolution clarifying the record that when the Council adopted the proposed 2018 budget, the Council intended for the 3% pay increase to classified and unclassified employees appropriated therein to be an across-the-board cost of living increase, not a merit increase, and that when the 2018 budget was adopted, the Council intended to obligate the parish to pay this cost of living increase in pay starting January 1st, 2018.
It's been offered by Mr. Roussel to suspend the rules and asked by Mr. Bartholomew for a unanimous second. Is there a unanimous second to suspend the rules for this item? Any questions or comments any objections from the audience? From the table?
Table, I would say good luck.
Let's vote.
I offer the following resolution clarifying the record that when the council adopted the proposed 2018 budget, the council intended for the 3% pay increase to classified and unclassified employees appropriated therein to be an across-the-board cost of living increase, not a merit increase, and that when the 2018 budget was adopted, the council intended to obligate the parish to pay this cost of living increase in pay starting January 1st, 2018.
The suspension being granted unanimously, we're now voting on the resolution as read by Mr. Roussel, as offered.
We vote on both.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Open for the suspension. We have one vote pending.
Okay, well, let's vote on the suspension. I thought we could have cleared it
Someone
verbally.
didn't vote.
Okay.
It didn't clear it because someone didn't vote. Okay, the rules have been suspended by a vote of 9-0 to add the item to the agenda. Mr. Roussel?
Yes. I read the resolution. I'll read it one more time if needed. A resolution clarifying the record that when the council adopted the proposed 2018 budget, the council intended for the 3% pay increase to classified and unclassified employees appropriated therein to be an across-the-board cost of living increase, not a merit increase, and that when the 2018 budget was adopted, the council intended to obligate the parish to pay this cost of living increase in pay starting January 1st, 2018.
Mr. Roussel offers this resolution for a vote. I'll second. Is there any questions or comments from the table? Mr. Burt has a comment. Go ahead, Mr. Burt.
Yeah, I'd just like to go on record to say that the delay from civil service in processing this request by the council has also had an adverse effect on the port employees as well. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open.
I have a question to Mr. Burt's comment. Is this race going to be, it's going to be...
Wait, hold on, Miss. I can't. Y'all got to clear me. Oh, can y'all put her on? Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Alden.
Is this race going to include the port employees?
The port employees were to receive a 3% merit increase, and this legislation has actually halted their 3% merit increase because of the, I guess, the misinterpretation what the Civil Service Department is, the way they're viewing this. So they're only getting the merit increase,
They
correct?
were granted an increase as well and have been affected by
Right.
the Civil Service not implementing it properly.
Correct. Yes.
But this is not in addition to what they've already...
No, the port only budgeted for merit increases. They did not budget for merit and cost of living.
And it's the same thing, but their verbiage is
Correct.
different than ours. We budgeted for cost of living increases, and they budgeted for merit increases.
That's correct.
Yes, sir.
You can get up to 4%.
Oh.
I'm just
Correct.
saying, they
Yeah,
can
you're
get
right.
up to 4%, but we appropriate only 3%.
Right.
So I'm just bringing that out.
Right.
Transparency.
Well, the raises have been implemented improperly. Some people have received
That-
merit increases within Plaquemines Parish government.
But they did get the 4%?
Yes, some of them have got more than 3%, which we have allocated.
But again, that's as a result of Miss Ellen
It's
inaction.
negligent. Yes, ma'am.
That's not our fault, right?
Right. But I just, wanted to put that out there. Let it be
I
known.
believe letting it all out.
Any other questions or comments from the table? From the audience? Hearing none, the machine is open. This resolution passes 9-0. Next item, please.
7C, District 1 update, Councilmember Bartholomew.
Yeah, completed. All the steel frame, steel structure. Then they'll start bringing in the cement panels to start closing in. But everything else is done. They have one section left of parking right behind the court, the new building, governmental building, that hasn't been completed. And the reason why that wasn't done because of the storage, metal and rebars are still being stored because it was pouring. They poured the last elevator this morning, and now all they have to do is just come back and pour the top to seal it in, the top part, and that'll be completed. They have 3 different elevators that's going to be operating at their building. So all that's been done in that area. And thank Don Beshel, Mr. Beshel, for helping try to clear up some of the drainage on that Highway 39. Whenever he can spare somebody to come and start digging, they're doing it when it's available, when they can get away from doing other main projects. So we can see that the water's starting to flow a whole lot better and draining Highway 15 up front. And also the park, the football field at the Day Event Park is almost done, not quite finished yet. We've been working on that for over a year. And I think he's done more in a couple of weeks than we did all year at the park. And hopefully the kids will have an opportunity to participate and play football this year at Day Event Park. So that's all I have at this time on that particular situation. Anybody have any comments, concerns, want to know something that I didn't say? I'll tell you about it.
That concludes.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Next item, please.
Status update on
No,
privatization.
that's deferred. All the rest are good.
Discussion of new CPRA diversion project on the East Bank.
Do we have a representative from CPRA in the audience? Okay. I'd just like to bring discussion about that. Is the area location that's being proposed by CPRA to do the diversion. It'd be above White Ditch area, close north of Fanny Ranch. This council just spent $52 million in building a levee, and CPRA gonna go build a diversion by digging that levee, removing the part of that levee that we just paid for, and that doesn't make no sense to me, not at all. So we really need to get on board and get a coalition to fight that, because that really irks me. I mean, that doesn't make sense. When we have on the other side of White Ditch, we have an area where it's wide open. There is no levee, and that could be filled in and brought protection up in that area rather than going to destroy the levee. That's the only means of protection that the people have in that area from White Ditch going north. That's all I have on that.
Want to speak, Mr. Cormier? Yes, sir.
Yes, thank you, Councilman Bartholomew, for bringing that up. It raises some of the issues that we discussed in the meeting with Phillips 66. Some people have speculated that CPRA has delayed or less than willing participants in providing Ironton and Phillips 66 with levee protection, because that's where they're trying to put the another 400-foot wide. I call it canal because that's what it should be called instead of a diversion. But that's a great point on that as well. We just received a letter recently from CPRA of a somewhat alarmist tone, and they're turning up the heat on the administration to sign a letter of no objection. I have declined to sign that letter. I've yet to hear an explanation from CPRA, a sufficient explanation on how they will combat what we know. And as even John Lopez noted in his objection to the opening of the Bonnet Carré Spillway, we know that it will cause a dead zone. And it's caused it in the past in the Bonnet Carré Spillway. It's done it in other places. So we will keep we'll keep bringing that to the fore and keeping everyone informed upon that. But I do think Plaquemines needs to take a unified approach on this topic, because we're the ones downriver who are being asked to be the guinea pigs for all these projects. In Lake Pontchartrain, they're on record objecting to it. But yet when it comes to Plaquemines, they have no problem with what's good for them is not good for us. And if I just may add, Chairwoman Williams, I just got another report. This oil spill in the river that recently occurred is really bad. I'm being told by Infomark now they're going to have to keep on watch about our water intake. The oil spreading, it's not being contained, but this is ongoing. It's a problem.
In what area of the river? Do you have any idea?
But it's at Millbrook 81.
Oh, it's going down river. Okay. Yeah, that's where it's going to settle in Venice. Mr. Burt?
Thank you, Mr. President. Would it be inappropriate for the coastal director to invite CPRA down here to update the council and the public, for that matter, on what's going on with the diversions and just the whole program in general? Because I think there's a lot of misinformation being put out, and Mr. Bartholomew had this on the agenda today, and it seems like, I believe he was expecting someone here. Was anyone even invited, or?
I made contact with the CPRA, but somebody was supposed to be here. But
Okay. Right now, we are not on the same page. I did speak with the chairman of CPRA, but we are not on the same page. I'm of the opinion that until the dead zone issue is addressed, not to mention numerous other causes of concern, that I've told them that I'm not going to sign a letter of no objection, because I do object to a 480 some odd foot canal cutting the parish in half and pumping the Barataria Bay is over $400 million annual commercial and recreational seafood impact, and that whole that basin is going to be put in jeopardy. And what I read earlier today in the status report, I was citing John Lopez of the Lake Pontchartrain Basin Foundation, who, again, I don't know how someone can take a position where for their lake it's bad and they object, but for our basin that's downriver from them, they want to do it.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, next item.
Okay.
Ready?
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Salvant. Ms. Salvant has something. Yes, ma'am.
So I didn't get Mr. Cormier's answer to Mr. Burt's question. I understood that you stated that you and Seaport PRA, I think Mr. Bradbury is not on the same page, but I think the question does deserve an answer, because I'm too having a watchful eye of all of the projects right in the proximity of my home, the diversion, all of these different industries that's coming right in there, and we're on edge with all of the development. So I think that we are worthy of a conversation or an open presentation for Mr. Bradbury here before the council. So I would just suggest that you reach out to him and invite him in, and hopefully we can get him on the next agenda.
Okay, and if you'd like, we did speak this morning about having a meeting, and I'll be more than glad if you'd like to be invited.
No, I think we would like a public meeting, because I think there's a lot of concerns from the public as well as from us.
Right.
If that's possible.
Right.
We don't want to exclude anyone. We want to let anyone have an opportunity to come and voice their concerns.
He wanted, I'll be more than glad to offer the invitation.
Okay, thank you.
Next, that's all, Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, ma'am.
Next item, please.
7E, discussion, update on 3 outstanding change orders for Building 203, Councilmember Lapine.
Councilmember Lapine?
Mr. Cormier, this has been on the agenda. We talked about this a while back. I want to see if you have any kind of update for us. Some of these invoices have been paid, or where we're moving. I think we have a substantial completion on this building, so can you give me an update of where we're at?
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're in litigation.
We're in litigation for building this building here?
We're in litigation with the party involved in Building 203.
But this building is finished. So why haven't we paid those invoices of the work that has been done for this? I understand you're in litigation for something else, but this building is finished.
According to if you read the petitions, this was all one big project. So it's not for something else. I'm reading it according to the way some of the initial petitions were read.
Okay, is it something that we didn't do as a council, we didn't appropriate the money, or is there not enough money? The money for this building's encumbered, is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Okay, so these invoices should be paid. I've just got another vendor call me who hasn't been paid, and I expressed my frustration to them. I think you're getting twisted or twisting these words or twisting this lawsuit in another context where this building or these invoices should be paid. So I don't know if anybody has any other frustration or has spoke with anyone else or vendors who's not getting paid.
My only concern would be is if this building is complete and we're satisfied with the job that was done, is that being questioned? Is that part of the lawsuit or?
This goes back to what we were just, Councilman Russo referred to a little earlier. If you read the petition of, because again, I did not file these lawsuits. These lawsuits were filed against the parish. And the contractor involved was one of the ones who jumped on board. Now, if you read the petition, and again, it's a lot of those things weren't specific. There were no specific ordinances to do those projects. And now we're taking, and you just voted on a matter just recently where you wanted more specificity. Whether, it's a question of whether the federal laws trump or whether, the charter. Now, we've got one judgment that says sort of split the baby, per se. But believe me, I'm looking to resolve these matters, and we even sent a letter with the contractor that you're fighting for, CDW Services from Jefferson Parish. We sent a letter.
Let me clarify. I'm not fighting for any. I'm fighting for us to pay our bills. This is very embarrassing to me. Does our attorney have access to this petition so he could brief us on it?
It's public record. Mr. Bally filed it.
Okay,
and they jumped on
I'm going
board.
to ask that he gets a copy of it, and then he'll brief us on the next executive session or what. But I'm not fighting for any. I'm fighting for the integrity of Plaquemines Parish. I'm getting tired of people calling me and telling me they're not getting paid. They've done business with Plaquemines Parish for 30 years, and this is an embarrassment. Okay? So I know what you're trying to form some kind of legal mumble jumble. I don't know, but I would like my attorney to tell us exactly where we stand.
Sir, CDW Services has not been in business 30 years, so I don't know what reference.
Did you hear me? Those contractors who worked for CDW have been around for 30 years and never been treated like this before. Okay? I'm not saying CDW. I'm not defending CDW. Okay? So I would request that they get a copy, and I ask that they put this on executive session, and I will keep this on the agenda for next week. Thank you. If anybody else has a question.
Next up, you had something, Ms. Alvan, or that was previously?
No, that was previously.
I'll move you, okay.
7H, discussion regarding the Grand Prairie Levy District. Councilmember Bartholomew.
Oh. Yes, sir.
What I'd like to do, I'd like to ask the chair to call a meeting for the council to sit in the board review for the Grand Prairie Levy District, because we are responsible for the Grand Prairie Levy District, along with all levy districts. So if you want to include them all, that's fine, because we need to set up and start filing the guidelines about identifying the what we're supposed to be identifying and keeping tab of the funding projects, the money that we collected from the levy districts, that we were given the responsibility to serve the parish in this area relative to the land, the levies, and the drainage, and also about the money, how much money we received in revenues and things of that nature. That's all.
On this item?
No, just in general.
Okay. Okay, yes, sir. It's noted, Mr. Bartholomew.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome. Next item.
Discussion regarding Plaquemines Parish resident fees for rental of parish community centers and auditoriums. Councilmember Bartholomew.
Mr. Bartholomew.
Yes, I'm just bringing it up for your consideration at the next meeting. Just talk about the idea that if any way possible that you can see that we can assist our employees, since some of them in our parish residents, since we're going through some hard times, about trying to give them some assistance in the rental of the building, where it won't be cost eventually $600-700 to use it, but also as well give them a lower rate to where we can get more usage out of it, because the building are constantly being air conditioned, heating throughout 24/7. It's nothing would change with that, and just ask this council to think about it, and if I think poll everybody and see what you feel about that, and we'll bring it up for discussion again. Thank you. That's all, Madam Chairman, on that.
Okay, sir. Next item.
J, discussion on inconsistencies of the post office. Councilmember.
Mr. Lapine.
I know I'm going to open the discussion to the floor to all my colleagues. I know this is a federal agency, but I would like to discuss if some of my other colleagues are experiencing the same problems that I am with no mail service, inconsistency, also water bills not getting on time, people getting to the water department later, not having water bills, elderly constituents calling me. I just want to open this up to the floor. If anyone else is getting as much complaints or concerns of what's going on. I know that the water department sent out bills Thursday before Good Friday, and they were turned away from the post office because they were later. Actually, an employee went on her day off of Good Friday. They took the bills, and some people still have not gotten water bills. So this is a trickle-down effect. We're not getting paid. The people are getting concerned about their water getting turned off. So I'd like to know if anyone else is in this same boat as I am, because I am getting a lot of requests, concerns, and like I said, I open the floor if anybody. I know there's not a lot we can do about the postal service, but I just want to see if everyone else is still getting the same thing.
Mr. Juneau?
Yes, I'm glad you brought this up, Mr. Lapine. I've been having numerous complaints, and I've been having complaints in my subdivision in Flores Gardens in District 4. We tried to get in touch with the postmaster. I had about 5 people to go see him, and Miss Julie Olson also was involved because she was waiting for something very important, and we hadn't received mail since Thursday of last week. We did receive it on Tuesday, and that's when we went to talk to the postmaster, but unfortunately, he wasn't there. I found out that the postmaster said that one of the carriers was sick, and he didn't have enough carriers to bring out the mail, so he was holding the mail. He's done this before. He's been here for about a year and a half. We had problems with him when he first came here. I went and talked to him, and we kind of straightened it out. But I think we got to call the Public Service Commissioner or the Postmaster of Louisiana. We got to speak to somebody, because this is starting to be bad, and a lot of people are waiting for certain things. And, I mean, you just can't stop what they say, rain, sleet, or snow, they're going to deliver mail. Well, this guy don't deliver it when it has sunshine. So, you know, and I like Miss Julie Olson to come up and let y'all find out what she went through.
It wasn't the care center, it was personal. Julie Olson, 134 Magnolia Drive, Belle Chase, Flores Gardens. As Mr. Juneau said, the last time we had gotten mail was Thursday, and on Tuesday I went to the post office and I was just going to pick up my mail. I didn't know why we didn't have it, but I was waiting for a time-sensitive piece of mail, so I was looking for it. So when I went to pick it up, they asked, I said, I'm here to pick up my mail. They said, will we holding it for you? I said, no, they just haven't delivered us any since Thursday. So the 2 clerks looked at each other and they said, oh, that's Route 2. She's been out sick since Thursday. So she says, 1 minute. She went to the back, I assumed, to get my mail. She came back to the front and she said half of Route 2's batch is on a truck, so it's probably on a truck. I said, is it on a truck or not? She says, it's probably on a truck, I'm not sure. I said, well, can I talk to a supervisor? So she goes to the back, she comes back up, and she says, the supervisor says she's not coming to the front. I was like, okay, can I get her name? And it's Mrs. Wilson. I can get you the first name if you need it. I said, is she the postmaster? And they said, no. I said, well, can I speak to the postmaster? And they said, he's not here. I said, can I have his name? They said, Andre Wilson. I said, okay. So I said, can I request a complaint form or a grievance form, and can I request a meeting with him for tomorrow, which would have been Wednesday at 11:30? They went looking for a form. They couldn't find a grievance or complaint form. So I just wrote it on a piece of paper, and I took a picture of the piece of paper and the two clerks so we'd have documentation. I requested the meeting. I went, checked, I was looking for the mailman. I went looking for him in his truck, couldn't find him. I made outreach to Mr. Juneau, since he is my councilman. He had not received mail either. I told him I was scheduled to meet with I had requested a meeting with the postmaster for 11:30 Wednesday. Did he want to come with me? He said yes, and he had some other gentlemen who would come too. We went Wednesday, that was yesterday, Wednesday at 11:30, and when we got there, they told us he was not there. We again left a note, a piece of paper. We put my name and phone number, Mr. Juneau's name and phone number, and requested a meeting with the postmaster for Monday, because that was the next date we could make. The postmaster did call me 6:17 last night, wanted to know had I received my mail. Well, I wasn't home yet, and I told him, yes, I received mail Tuesday. I didn't know at the time that we did not receive mail Wednesday. So we got it Tuesday, didn't get it Wednesday again. I said, yes, I did receive my mail. I said, but we'd still like to come meet with you Monday, because maybe there's a way when this is happening that the parish can send out alerts so people will know not to expect their mail. And he says, no, ma'am, we can't do that, and there's really nothing y'all can help me with. Because I was trying to approach it from a helpful position as opposed to just complaining. So I said, so should we still meet with you on Monday? And he says, no, there's really nothing you can do. So he canceled or didn't schedule any meeting with us on Monday. And that's all I know up to this minute.
That's where we stand. Besides, it's just not in my District 4, it's in Mr. Lepine's District 3. Now, I don't know where their Route 2 is. They never told us where that was. They keep everything secret. And I know it just went up a penny more, so they ought to be able to help us out a little bit. But it's getting bad. This post office needs to be revamped, because it's awful. And I'm saying this for myself and personally. And I'm also saying it for my district. It's in Mr. Lepine's district, but that post office is just not run right. And something has to be done, because this can't keep going on, because people need their mail. What he wanted to do, he wanted to stop delivering mail in my area and put those boxes like you see at apartments on the corner. And I told him, no, you can't do that. That wouldn't be right, because in my neighborhood, there's a lot of people from 75, which I am, to 92. And I said it wouldn't be right for them to have to go out in the weather to get their mail. And, they up in age, and they get food brought to them by council of agent. So if they can't bring the mail, when that's shambles. That's a shame. But if anybody knows anything that we can do to help us, please assist us.
I would recommend going to the U.S. Postal Service's website. There is, to my knowledge, there is something on the website where you can file complaints for things of this, and do it as like a priority one, and it will be routed to whoever that person's supervisor is. And so that would be, I would assume, the quickest way. You did that already?
I didn't go online, but I did call the number. There's an 800 number, so when you Google Belle Chase Post Office, you get this 800 number. I got them. Yeah, I waited an hour and 3 minutes on hold the first time. So I did talk to him, let him know we hadn't gotten mail from Thursday to Tuesday. Then after I went to the post office and had that episode, I called them back. I waited 57 minutes on hold that time. So there is that 800 number, but be prepared to wait at least an hour.
I was advised by the postmaster in my area, don't even bother calling that number. It's best to go online, and I don't know the exact form it is that you need to fill out, but there is something on the website where you can file complaints of this nature, and this is a serious issue. My issue wasn't anything like this, but that would be my recommendation. Can you come to the mic, Miss Robin? Come to the mic, wait.
The gentleman came to bring. Okay, Robin Thomas. Yeah. Listen, there was a gentleman that brought our mail. He must have bought it like 3 days. And I said, sir, who are you? And he said, I'm the postmaster. And that was the first time he brought the mail from Miss Kim now. Every day we never.
Was when Miss Julie was looking for him, delivering mail.
Yeah, he was delivering mail. I want to tell y'all that because he came 3 days in a row. Because we don't miss on our mail every day, do we, Miss Kim? And I asked the gentleman. I said I had never seen him before, and I said, who are you? And he said, I'm the postmaster. He's been delivering the mail to us at the courthouse,
but not to them.
Well, I just wanted to tell y'all it was a gentleman. I asked him who he was, and he said
thank you.
He was the postmaster.
Anything else, Mr. Lapine? Mr. Roussel?
On a different item, I want to take a minute of personal privilege and welcome Miss Kim T. Vaughn for her birthday today, who's in the audience.
Oh.
Well, happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Kind of lighten up the mood around here.
All right. At this time, we'll move to item 8.
Approval of the minutes from the March 22nd, 2018 meeting.
Offered by Mr. Bartholomew, seconded by Mr. Edgecombe. Machine is open for the vote on the approval of the minutes. It's approved 9-0. Mr. Edgecombe offers a motion to adjourn the meeting, seconded by Mr. Bartholomew. Machine is open on the adjournment. Meeting is voted on to adjourn 9-0. The meeting is adjourned at 5:07 p.m.